Commission regular meeting for Thursday, February 17th, 2022. A quick housekeeping item in accordance with Assembly Bill AB 361. Members of the commission, public, and staff will be participating via teleconference. As shown on the agenda and online, please email all written public comments to planning@oxnard.org. Those wishing to speak may visit oxnard.org/city-meetings to fill out the speaker form, or by calling 805-385-7878 by 3 p.m. the day of the meeting. During the meeting, a 3-minute opportunity will be given to the public for additional members to participate. Please view the bottom of your screens for the call-in number, meeting ID, and passcode. You will then follow the prompts and be connected to the meeting. When participating in the meeting, please keep your microphones muted until your turn to speak. Because the meeting is electronic, all votes will be done by roll call. Lastly, for presenters, when needing to advance to the next slide, please clearly state next slide. And with that, we'll move to our Madam Secretary to establish our quorum.
Chair Chavez,
Here.
Vice Chair Wejo,
Here.
Commissioner Connolly,
Here.
Commissioner Dr. Lopez,
Here.
Commissioner Meyer,
Here.
Commissioner Nash,
Here.
Commissioner Sanchez is absent, and we have a quorum.
Thank you for that. We'll go ahead and proceed to our next item, which is our Pledge of Allegiance. And if you will all join me in standing and saluting the flag of our nation. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, with that, we'll go ahead and proceed with our agenda. Our next item is public comments for items not on the agenda. Members of the public wishing to address the Planning Commission regarding any item not on the agenda, but within the subject matter jurisdiction of the commission may do so at this time. However, the commission cannot take action on any items presented during the public comments and will be referred to our commission secretary. All public comment speakers will have 3 minutes. Madam Secretary, did we have any members sign up for public comments?
Yes, we have one, but I don't see that person in the call, but I see Alex Stein has his hand raised right now.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and move to that individual for 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Alex Stein, and the reason why I'm here at the Planning Commission today is because the Dallas Cowboys recently just had their Vice President of Operations, Rich Dalrymple, convicted of spying on cheerleaders. He had to pay $2.4 million settlement. The Dallas Cowboys represent Oxnard. We cannot have them training here. The Dallas Cowboys not only stink at football, they haven't won a Super Bowl in over 26 years, but they represent the city of Oxnard. I'm not willing to have somebody come here and a representation of the Dallas Cowboys and take a picture of my daughter naked. I don't think that's okay. I think what Rich Dalrymple did by taking pictures of cheerleaders naked without their consent is one of the most evil, perverted things a human being can do. So the city of Oxnard has to be cognizant of this because the Dallas Cowboys are a legacy brand. We cannot let our city be overrun by people that sexually assault cheerleaders and then just pay them off in order to not face a criminal fine. I don't want this to happen. Like I said, I have a daughter. She's underage. I don't want her to happen to be in a situation where she's at a public restroom and a Dallas Cowboy employee happens to walk in that restroom and thinks of it as an opportune time to take some sort of photo of my daughter. That is not okay with me. And that's why I think the city of Oxnard really needs to take a step in just issuing a staunch verbal tone to the Dallas Cowboys that we will never have you in our city because we will never accept a organization that facilitates people that are going to take pictures of people without their consent. That's like one of the lowest forms ever. Listen, I love Oxnard, California. It's one of the most beautiful places. I don't blame them for wanting to come here, of course, but we cannot offer our services to a team that literally lets their employees take advantage sexually of other employees within their own company. If you think about this is how they treat their own cheerleaders, imagine how they would treat your daughter. Imagine, Matt, how they would treat you. Imagine Commissioner Katie, how they would treat you. Imagine our Vice Chair Ronald, how they would treat you. They would treat you worse than their own employees. So if they would take sexual pictures of their own employees, I don't want that organization anywhere near Oxnard, California. As a matter of fact, it gives me worry and fear just thinking of the Dallas Cowboys. They haven't won a Super Bowl. They're not a relevant team. It doesn't benefit us by even having them here. We have the Los Angeles Rams. We have enough football in this area. We have to exclude the Dallas Cowboys from coming to Oxnard because I don't want a bunch of rapists that are convicted civil rapists coming to our city, taking pictures of my daughter while she's using the restroom or while she's at a cheer camp or she's cheerleading on the sideline. So we need to send a message to the Dallas Cowboys. Not only do they stink at football, but their operations are absolutely horrendous. They actually cover up rape, assaults, and now that they pay the $2.4 million settlement, it proves that the Dallas Cowboys are an evil organization and they don't deserve to be anywhere near our great city of Oxnard, California. Thank you very much. I appreciate it for listening, guys.
Thank you for your comment. Commissioner Nash.
Thank you, Chair Chavez. Mr. Kolowitz, does the Planning Commission have any thing to do with the Dallas Cowboys training in Oxnard?
Commissioner Nash, thank you for the question. We were going to respond very briefly that the Planning Commission does not have any jurisdiction over this matter. And as a body that does not have jurisdiction over this matter, there's nothing that the Planning Commission can do at this point in time. But we have heard the comment and staff has made notes accordingly.
Chair Chavez would have been in his right to cut off the speaker.
This is Ken Roselle. Potentially, yes, but unless it's going totally off the rails, we generally recommend that allow a public speaker to speak unless it's clearly outside the jurisdiction. Here, Chair Chavez would have been within his rights, but he exercised his discretion to let the speaker speak for the 3 minutes with the possibility that he might eventually get to an item which could be within our subject matter jurisdiction.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Commissioner Nash. I do see another hand raised by Al Jones.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, Mr. Jones, you have 3 minutes for items not on the agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is an agenda item. It's in reference to advocacy's application.
Okay, so once we get to that, we'll call you back up then.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. So if there is no further public comments, we'll go ahead and utilize AB 361, time for 3 minutes. Any additional members of the public wishing to provide any comments that for items not on our agenda, but again, within our subject matter jurisdiction, may view the bottom of their screens for the calling number, meeting ID, as well as the passcode. During this time, commissioners, what I would actually like to do is move to our consent agenda. We've all received communication that we need a motion to continue those minutes to our next meeting, which is the 24th. Vice Chair Reppel.
Thank you, Chair Chavez. I move to postpone consideration of the minutes, particularly D1, D2, D3, to our next meeting on February 24, which is a special meeting.
Thank you. Commissioner Meyer.
I second the motion.
Thank you. So it's been moved and second to continue our consent agenda to our next meeting on February 24th. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none. Madam Secretary, can we get a roll call, please?
Vice Chair Owejo,
Aye.
Commissioner Meyer,
Yes.
Commissioner Connolly,
Yes.
Commissioner Dr. Lopez,
Yes.
Commissioner Nash,
Aye.
Chair Chavez,
Aye.
motion passes.
Thank you. Mr. Kolowitz, there's also changes to our agenda this evening. Would you like to go ahead and disclose those?
Chair Chavez and members of the Planning Commission, Ken is actually going to take us through this one. So Mr. Roselle.
Yes. On the Boxnard item, because Boxnard missed the deadline to submit required information to the city planning department, the Boxnard item will be taken off calendar. In addition, there will not be time for another public hearing to be held before the March 1st deadline for Boxnard to obtain a special use permit. As such, they will not be able to obtain a special use permit and thus will not be able to open a retail dispensary within the city of Oxnard. Thank you.
Thank you. So just to confirm, we have our our continued public hearing item, which is the Advocate Society, public hearing item number G1, and public hearing item G3 that will be heard tonight, correct?
That is correct. G2, the Boxnard item, as I mentioned, is taken off calendar and will not be continued to the next meeting.
Thank you for that.
Chair Chavez, I'm going to hop in here because I don't know if I heard the numbers correct, so I just want to be clear. Item F1 on the calendar is Advocate Society that will be heard tonight?
Correct.
Okay, and then item G1, which is Blooming Organics / Elevate Oxnard, that one we will be looking for a formal motion to continue that one to February 24th. If the Planning Commission wants to take things out of order and do that now, we can. No motion is needed to take item G2, the Boxnard item, off calendar. That simply has happened because they have not submitted their required information to us. Following those items, we would conclude the evening with item G3, the Starbucks and fast food drive-through project.
Thank you for that clarification, Mr. Kolowitz. Madam Secretary, did we have any additional speakers?
No, we don't.
Thank you. Commissioners, if I can, at the direction of our manager, if we can get a motion to continue item G1, which is the Blooming Organics, doing business as Elevate Oxnard, to our special meeting on February 24th, please.
Sorry, point of order, Chair.
Vice Chair Raho.
Are we skipping section E ex parte or using your discretion as chair to pull that item for consideration?
I am only going to, I did take that out of order. So you know what, let me go ahead and just do our ex parte and then I'll jump to the G1.
Acknowledge,
So,
thank you.
At this time, we'll go ahead, since there's no additional speakers for items not on the agenda, we'll move to our next item, which is our ex parte declarations for public hearing items. And we'll start with our vice chair.
Thank you, Chair Chavez. Even though it was already mentioned that items are being pulled or possibly being postponed for formality's sake, and for it to be on the record, I am recusing myself on items F1, G1, and G2 due to federal statutes 18 U.S. Code sections 203 and 205. Thank you, Chair Chavez.
Thank you. Commissioner Connolly.
None, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Dr. Lopez.
None, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Meyer.
None, Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Nash.
None, thank you.
Thank you. And for myself, there are none. So we'll go ahead and jump down to G1. And again, looking for a motion to continue that one to our next meeting. Commissioner Dr. Lopez.
So moved on the recommended action.
Thank you. Is there a second? Commissioner Connolly.
Second, thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none, Madam Secretary, can we get a roll call for item G1 being continued to our next meeting for a special meeting on February 24th?
Commissioner Dr. Lopez,
Aye.
Commissioner Connolly,
Yes.
Commissioner Meyer,
Yes.
Commissioner Nash,
Aye.
Chair Chavez,
Aye.
motion passes.
Thank you. Now we'll go ahead and go back to our continued public hearing, which is F1. Project name is Advocate Society LLC, doing business as Advocate Society, Commercial Cannabis Business Retail Special Use Permit, Planning and Zoning Permit number 21-516-17. Special Use Permit, Cannabis Retail. This is located at 2550 North Vineyard Avenue. A request to permit the operation of a commercial cannabis retail facility within an existing 4,566 square foot commercial suite of an approximately 5,270 square foot multi-tenant commercial building on a 1.01 acre site located within the general commercial plan development zone. Proposed development includes tenant improvements, installation of wall partitioning, plumbing upgrades, upgrades to an existing fire alarm system, security upgrades to the existing building, and installation of a new secure windows and doors. The cannabis retail operations will be conducted between the hours of 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. daily. The project also includes a request for an administrative parking relief to allow for a decrease in the number of required parking spaces required by the center, which include the properties located at 2250 North Vineyard Avenue, from 53 parking spaces to 47 parking spaces. This is filed by Ronald Jenkins. Our city staff person is Jose Coyo, Associate Planner. The recommendation to the Planning Commission is to find the project to be categorically exempt from environmental review pursuant to CEQA guidelines section 15301, existing facilities, and adopt a resolution 2022-XX approving planning and zoning permit number 21-516-17, special use permit cannabis retail, subject to certain findings and conditions. As a reminder to the public and my colleagues, a pre-recorded presentation is available on the city's YouTube channel in accordance with Measure M. At this time, if there's no objection from the commission, we'll take the applicant's presentation and then we'll combine questions afterwards. Is there any objection to doing that? Seeing and hearing none. So we'll turn to first, Mr. Coyle, did you have any additional information that you wanted to provide before we move to the applicant?
Yes, good evening, Planning Commission Chair. No, I do not have anything else to add.
Okay. So at this time, we'll turn to our applicant team, and if you can please introduce your team that you have with you, and once your slides are available, you may begin.
Thank you. My name is Rodney Jenkins. I am the founder and CEO of Advocate Society. I speak for my team when I say we are very appreciative and excited to present to you today about our future retail store in the Oxnard community, which also happens to be my home. I grew up in Oxnard and I've dedicated most of my adult life to being an involved leader. And I feel that it's important for myself personally to give back to the community that has given me so much. Next slide, please. Now I'd like for you guys to meet our team. We have a great team of highly qualified, passionate individuals with experience from a wide range of disciplines and highly regulated industries, including retail cannabis, finance, land use, community engagement, law enforcement, and the nonprofit world. The team you see on this slide will be the same local homegrown team providing guidance and mentorship to our local hirees at Advocate Society. And we are all here today on this call to answer any questions you may have about our location. And I'm going to pass the presentation to Matthew McCody, who serves as our planning and land use expert. Thank you.
We can go ahead and advance the slide. And one more slide, please. So the location, we're on the corner, Ventura Boulevard and Vineyard. It's right off the 101. This is located within a commercial center, mixed commercial uses, retail, food services, other professional services. And this particular parcel is noted as an eligible retail parcel, commercial cannabis, in that it's properly zoned and properly distanced from sensitive use. Next slide, please. Here's the overall parcel layout showing the area to be licensed, as well as the parking areas. The exterior is largely unchanged. We haven't proposed any sort of large signage in conjunction with this project. Site improvements do include, there's a new ADA route that connects Ventura Boulevard into this entire shopping center. And then most importantly, there's security retrofits, kind of that serve this entire site here. Security lighting around the perimeter of the building, as well as exterior security cameras. They capture parking areas, they capture the transit areas, they can see adjacent parcels. That kind of serves the entire complex. Next slide, please. In addition to seeking approval of the special use permit, we're seeking administrative parking relief. Specifically, this is a reduction of 6 spaces. We've conducted a parking study from a third-party traffic engineer. They've used a few approaches. This is number of methodology. Most notably is kind of boots on the ground research. They go to the site, they visit the site at different times during different hours, different days of the week, paying special attention to peak hours. The culmination of this study is that in its current occupation, less than 50% or so of the spaces are occupied at any given time. As conditions of our approval, we volunteered that we will have no staff parking on site. This is probably going to make the biggest impact on parking availability with this project. The way that that mechanism will be that Advocate Society completely covers all the costs of employee travel to and from work. This is done through a company-run van pool, and then reimbursement for public transportation and rideshare. That all gets reimbursed from the company. And so we'll also mandate no employee parking on site, even if they elect to do that as part of our conditions of approval. Further, kind of extending these discounts and these incentives to customers, we've put a number of programs in place. Discounts if customers use public transportation, they bike to work. Basically anything that's not a vehicular travel that occupies a parking space, they receive a discount. This should incentivize them. And then, further on this, we've kind of organized all of our operations around the speed of service. So customers are in and out, and that includes having a large number of POS stations able to suit all the customers. We calculate transaction times. We've used a lot of the data from our other retail facility in West Hollywood. A lot of customer data, how long it takes to get a customer in and out, where the bottlenecks are. And we've implemented all those in the organization of this facility. And that speed of service downstream has effects on the parking. Next slide, please. So just a little bit about the design, interior design. We partnered with a local design firm, Antoinette Designs. She was tasked with kind of creating a look that's fits right into Oxnard, but it's still kind of capturing some of the design efficiencies and operational efficiencies that we've used in the West Hollywood location. That's been open for a number of years. And the idea was, kind of a safe and secure environment without oppressive security features. So a lot of these things are intended to be hidden from customers. So it doesn't feel like you're in a cage. It doesn't feel like you're under surveillance. This is a safe, but inviting environment. And next slide, and this will be PETA going over some store operations.
Okay, I had to unmute myself. And give me just a second. Hi, everyone. My name is PETA, and I'll be going through some information as far as, our company. First and foremost, our retail operations. Our team has worked and put a lot of focus in making sure that we're creating a safe and secure environment for our community. We're developing an upscale retail space for our community to experience the highest level of service. As far as our transaction capacity, we'll be catering to 10 customers at any given point. That way, it'll allow us to avoid any foot traffic or actually major traffic inside and outside the store. And we also want to give the opportunity to our team members to be able to focus on each client individually and educate them about the product to make, for them to make the best choice as far as their options goes. We're offering phone and online orders along with delivery service, which is going to allow us to create an easy and more of a convenient process and experience for our clients, really. As far as our delivery service goes, we'll be implementing the latest tracking system for the safety and security of not only our clients, but also our team members. As far as our products, we'll be partnering up with our local producers because we want to make sure that we are keeping as much of the profit within our own community. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay, sorry. So as far as our staffing, just a little too far. Okay, one more.
The green slide.
It's the staffing one. Yes. Thank you, thank you. So we're committed to hire within our community, and we will be hiring 70% of our team will be hired locally and 50% from social equity. Our team will go through a pre-screening background check and onboarding process. We are offering competitive pay, full benefits, and retirement plans because we want to make sure that we're actually allowing our team members to grow and expand their career within the company. Our team will be fully trained on regulations, safety and security, products, customer service, cash handling, and just all the above. And I think actually I will pass the floor out to Randy. Thank you for your time.
Next slide, please. Good evening, commissioners. Many of you know me. My name is Randy Latimer. I am the head of security for Advocacy Society. I've been involved with Advocacy Society from the ground floor, from the application process, writing the security plan, developing the security plan, utilizing all the best practices, measures in, now Cannabis. A little bit of my experience. I'm a 30-year retired commander from the Oxnard Police Department. Spent 30 years at the Oxnard Police Department. I was in charge of alcohol compliance in one of my last assignments with the department, which I went in front of Planning Commission several times, placing conditions on many of the alcohol establishments. I'm also the owner of NRL Consultants, who established the security protocols, and I am also the owner of the Medallion Protective Services, who will be servicing this location with guards. We've, in looking at this location, we've utilized all the best practices measures as far as SEPTED, and actually reached out to the community and our neighbors to develop our plan while making sure that we're in compliance with all state and local regulations. We work closely with Oxnard Police Department, with Scott Swinson, making sure that our location is a hardened target that's not an attraction for crime. We will be implementing high definition video surveillance, secure access areas, and access control. We will have a minimum of 2 security guards on site during operating hours, and after hours, we will utilize the latest and greatest high-tech video surveillance, which offers 2-way communication with anyone who gets in a close proximity to the building. As far as our cash handling, and I know that's one of the big concerns about cannabis, as it's a cash business, which transitioning into electronic, but we will utilize a armored car service to transfer cash from our location to a financial institution. Next slide. Our monitoring service we're utilizing Bay Alarm, who will be monitoring our surveillance cameras. We'll also have real-time app that we can actually see what's going on in and about our parking lot and in the interior of the business, which will have direct, Oxnard Police Department will also have direct feed to our location. Next slide, please. Being a community-based business, and in my experience with dealing with the community as a 30-year veteran of the Oxnard Police Department, one of our biggest focuses was making sure that we are extremely compatible and good neighbors with not only the neighboring shop owners, but the surrounding neighborhoods. So in preparation for our license, we reached out to, early in the process, to the El Rio West neighborhood, to the unincorporated El Rio section of our city, and to the River Park, and had neighborhood meetings with their neighborhood councils, and allowed them to ask any questions and utilize their feedback to make sure that we were, once again, doing the right thing. And we were going to address any issues. We offered Ronnie's number, my number, and basically the fact that we are local, we will respond to any incidents, whether it's a nuisance complaint, it's a complaint of loitering, parking problems, traffic problems. We are right here, we're local, and we have a commitment to be extremely responsive to our community. We reached out to each of the shop owners. There's a pizza shop, there's an ice cream shop, there's a vitamin shop, a car wash supply shop, a staffing shop in our complex, and and a barber shop. And we have a 100% support from each of the shop owners who will be our neighbors when we open up. Next slide. I'll now turn it over to back to Peta, and she's going to talk about our ongoing volunteer efforts and contribution to our community.
Thank you, Randy. So our team has a long history of donating our time and resources to strengthen our communities, like in our community that we operate in. We are partnering up with large organizations that have a lot of outreach and history in the community, such as the PAL program. We've also worked with the shelter care resources that's in particular 100% volunteer work, which really gives our team a chance to directly work with the community. So besides, the PAL program and shelter care in Oxnard, we have already either donated to or made commitment to support various organizations such as the Sunset Little League, Pacific High School Sports, and we're constantly continuing to, our team's constantly reaching out to see how else we can kind of get ourselves involved within the community. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. So our team has already and will continue to organize events such as the food giveaway and toy giveaway that we do every year during holidays. Furthermore, we've made a commitment to giving back $250,000 to the Oxnard Reinvestment Funds, 1% for local nonprofit and community service projects, 1% to the Oxnard Community Benefit Funds. And like I mentioned, we will be continuing to work with City of Oxnard and our residents to make sure to make sure that we have a very great and positive impact within our community. And I'm going to pass the floor back to Randy.
Next slide, please. In continuing with our community partnerships, I am happy to announce that we will be working with Sunset Little League. Many of you may not know, they're celebrating their 50th anniversary of going to the, I believe, Little League World Series. So we're actively working with Sunset Little League to support that event, which I'm sure several of the planning commissioners and council members will be invited to. It's going to be a great event. One thing I do want to add that we are also working with local contractors. Being homegrown and the homegrown team, it's really important that we make sure that we give our local contractors, our apprentices, our unions an opportunity to be a part of this great endeavor that we're entering into. So I will turn it back to Ronnie if he has any final words.
And I just wanted to kind of add to our community work as far as in specific to the PAL. For me personally, I'm very passionate about certain things. And, you know, for me growing up and not having too many positive influences in my life, you know, coming from not to get in too much detail, but come from a drug-infested home and not having a father around, I look at the PAL and I love what they do over there for the kids and all those kids that, you know, probably can't afford to play sports and just be in a safe environment. And they all kind of come from the same environment. So it's good to see that. And it's good for us and our business to support businesses like that, because for me, like Randy Latimer was my cops and jocks when I was in high school. So it's very personal. He was a big influence in my life. As I went on to college, he helped me a lot. And I just wanted to just throw that in there because I think it's important that, you know, we're from here. And, you know, a big part of our business is not just cannabis. It puts us in a position to really, really, truly give back to our community and support all the local businesses and charities. And I think that's going to be it for us. And we're open for any questions that anyone may have for us. I, again, thank you guys, and our team thanks you guys for giving us this opportunity. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. I do actually have one burning question before I open it to the commissioners, Mr. Jenkins. Which high school did you go to?
I went to Wainimi High School in Oxnard.
All right, I'll save my comments later for that one. Commissioners, any questions for either the applicant team or the city staff? Commissioner Meyer.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, Chair Chavez. Yeah, just a couple questions. One, or maybe a clarifying. I heard union mentioned, but I wasn't clear. Do you have a is an LPA with a union currently?
Commissioner Meyer, this is Randy Levin. At this time, we do not, but it is our plan to work with our local unions and once again, and seek their assistance with the build out. But we don't currently have a agreement at this point.
Great, thank you. I mentioned that because most of the applicants have had an LPA in place. And with so many dispensaries being approved, that's definitely a difference maker that folks who, you know, being a largely blue collar town of Oxnard, you know, is something that people will care about when they're choosing, you know, use one dispensary versus another. My other question was, I've been doing more research on cannabis in California, and I've been seeing that a lot of dispensaries have struggled because of the tax structure and the booming black market. And so I'm wondering, clearly there were no lack of applicants for Oxnard, but I wonder about what your plans are to be successful despite some of the trends that are being talked about for dispensaries, at least in some places in California.
Yeah, absolutely. If I could cut in, it's really interesting. Depending on who you talk to, some people think these things are a gold mine, and that's why you have so many applicants to the city. We're existing operators. We've had the existing facility in West Hollywood for some time. These things aren't necessarily set it up and let it go. These things are a lot of work. It's customer retention. It's working inside of a congested environment, and it's a lot of regulation. And so I think one of the most important things is having that history, that experience, all of that in order to make sure that you can stay competitive, you can still give back to the community, and you can do all of your operations as intended. It's experience.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I can definitely appreciate that you have a base of experience and success to build off of. So thank you. That's all my questions.
Thank you. Any additional questions from the commission? I just had a question for our staff. Well, first, let me ask of the applicant first. The employee parking situation, it was mentioned that it was voluntary, that you guys suggested to have your employees not park on site. Can you just clarify that? Did I hear that correctly?
Yes, we were kind of going over a number of options on how to kind of reduce the parking load in site, and we elected to take all of them. Reducing customer parking on site is done through operational procedures. The best way to reduce employee parking on site is just to immediately not allow any parking on site. And the way we do that is through this van share program. We essentially shuttle staff to work and then back from work. And this is done, it's actually very procedurally slick. You have 2 shifts a day. The van pool drops off, picks up, drops off, picks up. For staff that doesn't elect to use the van pool, they can use a rideshare service, they can bike to work, they can use public transportation, and Advocate Society would cover the cost of that. The mechanism to ensure that there's some oversight in this process is that city staff will request of us operational procedures on essentially logs of how the staff parking is working, but also attestations from our staff that these procedures are being followed, and we've elected to do that.
Is there any cap on the amount of reimbursement that is done on the employer's part?
We've committed to make this, and then as part of the approvals of condition, 100% covered by this company.
Okay. So if somebody took an Uber or Lyft and it cost them $35 to get to work, to get back home, and they do that 5 days a week, Advocate Society is going to pay it all, right?
Yeah. So I think functionally we're protected by our hiring program. We're really striving for 100% local hires. Occasionally there might be someone from outside of the immediate area. So we've set a minimum of 75%. So we'll be able to kind of manage that. We've run the cost of all these things and really feel like this is the best way to go on something concrete that'll reduce our parking load.
Have you reached out to the local transit provider, and the transit provider being Gold Coast Transit District, to see if they had any employer programs so that they can be able to offer monthly passes to your employees?
Randy?
No, we have not reached out to Gold Coast, but that's definitely an option. And I'm sure there's, with the push for green, we'll consider Gold Coast and other rideshare options, in this endeavor. And we're trying to stay green.
Okay. How many employees do you plan on having hired?
So it's based on essentially anticipated revenue levels. So at launch, we are going to launch with a full staff, but the amount on site probably is what you want to know at any given time, which is between 6 and 10, depending on the shift. So maximum of 10, minimum of 6.
Okay. And then I'm actually going to pause my line of questioning and then allow Commissioner Connolly to go with her questions. Commissioner Connolly.
Thank you so much, Chair. This is just kind of to go along with what Chair Chavez said about parking. Parking is always a fun situation and conversation for us. And what you guys have proposed with ride sharing and covering parking is amazing. Are you doing the same thing at your West Hollywood location? And I ask that just because I've been to West Hollywood a handful of times, and I know that their parking is even more challenging than ours is here. So I just kind of wanted to see the situation that you guys had there and how it's worked or what challenges you may have had.
Yes, so in addition to the West Hollywood location, we've kind of, launched and operate a number of these different members of our organization. We kind of, threw everything on the table when we were trying to solve the parking issue here in Oxnard. The West Hollywood, there's no parking. There's just, in some areas there's just no parking, and then you deal with that as a downtown district. Here we're kind of, pushed a little bit further out. This is freeway adjacent. We're in an immediate commercial center with, a relatively large amount of spots right next to a very, very large commercial center with a large number of spots, hundreds of spaces as part of Vallarta Market. And so, the items on the table for consideration were, leasing spots from Vallarta, in order to kind of feed our situation. And then, kind of working with staff on this, we ran the traffic analysis through the third party. They kind of, gave recommendations. And then we worked with staff on developing something that would kind of get us over the line to make sure that, parking is not going to be an issue there, that, all of the spots are accounted for, and that we're kind of doing everything operationally and functionally to reduce those. We did look at this kind of, sorry to circle back to your question, but yeah, we looked at this as a unique situation that needed unique parking. Obviously, valet is in a situation that we could do here. However, we can kind of do everything we can operationally to reduce that parking load.
Perfect. And just to clarify my question, I was just asking if you've done like the ride share coverage from the company at your West Hollywood location and how that's impacted your bottom line and if it's worked out for you there.
Yeah, so for not for the staff, this is kind of a new idea here, but for customers, it makes a huge impact. If you give customers a 5 to 10% discount in West Hollywood, it's 10%. In some of these other locations, even 5%. Customers will use public transit to get there. They will walk there. They will bike there, and that really makes a huge difference. If you have customers coming in and out, if you have say 10 spaces that are to be occupied, and you can incentivize even 20% of your customers to not use those space, well, now you have 8 spaces unoccupied. And so unique situation for here, kind of custom made for Oxnard.
Thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Commissioner Connolly. Commissioner Meyer.
Thank you, Chair Chavez. I wanted to see if you guys were aware of another new tenant that's right adjacent to you, which is Clínicas del Camino Real. I work at Child Development Resources, which is also just across the street from you guys. 3 large buildings there. And so I'm very familiar with the area. And I know there's a lot of parking currently, but I also know that with Clínicas leaving as a subtenant of CDR and coming into the same shopping center that you're in, they definitely generate a lot of car traffic and parking. So I just wanted to see, were you guys aware of that? because I know that happened relatively recently. Just to make sure that you know kind of the conditions that are working around you.
Actually, Commissioner Meyer, yes, we're aware of that. Actually, I watched, when they were building it out and made comments. Clinics, I know how busy they are, and one of the considerations, well, one of the unique attributes of our parking lot, it's separated by a driveway where, number one, I don't think we will get residual from their parking lot. And with the measures that we're putting into place based on the conditions in our traffic study, we don't feel that they're going to grossly impact our operation. But we definitely are taking that into consideration. We're taking the increased traffic flow. And our plan is to work with, if there is an issue with Clinicas, with our local tenants, with the Oxnard Police Department, with the traffic engineer, make sure that we have a smooth traffic flow. That's actually my area of expertise. I was the traffic commander for Oxnard Police Department, and I handled that traffic issues throughout the city for several years. And you make assessments of what the condition is and work with a team to make sure that we have a solution, a workable solution to make sure that it doesn't negatively impact our neighbors, the community, in the city.
Understood. I'm thinking it might be more of you being impacted by them, and I'm wondering, do you have are your spots going to be designated or painted to indicate that they're for your use, or is it just going to be spots and people park where they park?
Actually, there will be designated spaces for our customers, and especially for our delivery vehicles. We want our delivery vehicles to be as close to the front door. That's for security issues. Security needs. We want our delivery to be right close to the door. We will have guards on site, and their responsibility will make sure that customers park that are patronizing our business, and that certain part of the strip mall's business are the ones parking there. As any good neighbor in constant communication, our goal is to develop a relationship with everyone in the parking lot and with Vallarta and with Clinicas to make sure that we're creating a synergistic atmosphere. So if there is a problem, we'll work with whomever is creating that problem to make sure that it doesn't continue and that we're good neighbors. So everyone should be good neighbors, good stewards of their own space to make sure they don't negatively impact the others.
Thank you.
Commissioners, any additional questions? All right, I'm just going to continue my questions. Commissioner Connolly actually touched on one of them in regards to an overflow if the employees don't decide that they choose that they want to take their own vehicle. And it was mentioned the Vallarta parking lot. So I think this might be a question more for our city staff. Right now, it's a request to have a reduction of the parking, but yet there's that potential that our employees are going to be parking in another property. So why would we allow a reduction in parking, Mr. Coyle or Mr. Kolwitz?
Chair Chavez, I'll start with this one, and I will see if Jose wants to add to us. We're not authorizing them to park in Vallarta's parking lot at this point in time. The way that our approval is written is the reduction of parking on this particular piece of property. If the applicant team would work out an arrangement with the owners of the Vallarta market and would not impact the amount of required parking that that shopping center also has, then a future modification to the permit can be considered at that point in time. But today, it's the best way of thinking about this is the shopping center essentially on its own independent island, and they need to take care of their own within this piece of property.
Okay, and I appreciate that information. Let me see, I don't want to go too far into those comments. Mark Cody, I apologize if I said that wrong. The van pool, you mentioned the van pool. Who actually drives that van pool and to ensure that the employees from the second shift and the first shift are able to be there on time or get home in a timely manner?
Sure, that's actually the primary method of reducing eliminating the employee travel to work. So it's staggered shifts. Essentially, the van full picks up the opening shift employees in the morning, brings them to work. When it's time for the closing shift, the van full picks, this is company driven by an employee, picks up the closing shift, brings them in, and then returns the opening shift home, and then does the same at the end of the night. There's a lot of efficiencies in here. Honestly, it's not a great expense to the business operating this additional van in order to kind of reduce our parking.
Okay, thank you. Miss Gassin, I apologize.
You said it correctly, Gasemi.
Gasemi, you're the community outreach, correct? Or is there someone else?
I think both myself and Randy.
Okay, so either one of you guys can answer this one. How many contacts did you make throughout the community? Neighbors, community members that lived in the area?
We definitely touch bases with, at least I know that, with that entire shopping center, but I'm sure Randy can go a little more details in that.
Yes, Commissioner Chavez. Once again, early on in the process, we reached out to the River Park Neighborhood Council, spoke to T. Hartley directly, spoke to the El Rio West. Actually, doesn't have an active city. Neighbor council. However, down in Ryberg, I spoke to him directly, and then spoke to Mike Barber, and we had a meeting with the El Rio. I forgot their commission's name. It slips my mind, but we actually had a Zoom meeting with them. We personally went to every one of the shop owners within our complex, and a unique attribute of our shopping center, we don't have the nearest neighborhood is about 1,000 feet away, which is the condominium complex. Just so,
Mr. Latimer, how many people did you actually speak with? I know you mentioned a couple of names, but how many members of the community? And I understand that the neighborhoods are pretty far away from this property, right, but it does have an effect. So how many people? 100, 250 people, 25 people? How many people did you actually speak with?
I don't have the actual numbers from we utilize Zoom and the Google Meets platform, and I do not have those numbers.
Okay.
If I could jump in, we've also had like a multiple number of our team members, kind of do it individually as well. So I know that we've tried to utilize our core team to kind of touch as many of our surrounding neighbors. So.
Okay. What was the general feedback from those that you actually spoke with?
Well, I'll say once again, from the shop owners, we had very positive feedback. There was concern from a new ice cream shop that went, but once I spoke to Alan, the owner, he's very welcoming. Kind of gave them the overall that we're a local company, that we are embedded in our community, and dispelled several of the myths that surround, a new cannabis operations opening up. And basically got his support. As far as the community that we did reach out to, and as Peter said, I've had numerous conversations with people in the area. Being from here, I see people every day and speak to people about these operations. I get a lot of questions about cannabis in general and shops opening up and able to dispel the negative perceptions. One of the issues that was brought up was it's in a Grand Vineyard Avenue, the rush hour traffic. That was one of the concerns that we did get, and was able to address a lot of those concerns. But basically, that we are going to, as I stated earlier, work with the Oxnard Police Department, engineer the neighborhoods to make sure that we're addressing whatever issues there are.
Okay, so generally it's been positive feedback. In regards to the security plan, and again, without going into too much detail in your security plan in itself, the number of guards during the operation, how many would that be?
We'll have 2 guards during, at all times, at least 2 guards during operating hours.
Okay.
If we do have a special event, we'll obviously increase our staffing based on needs, based on an assessment of several factors.
Okay. Now there was a few comments on a different application, armed versus unarmed. And since you are an expert in your field, what is the rules for cannabis dispensaries security guards? Are they to be armed, or is it an option?
It's there is no state mandate for armed guards. The mandate is to be certified by the BSIS, Bureau of Security and Investigative Services. We will comply with whatever conditions that the Oxnard Police Department places on us. If the Oxnard Police Department says we need armed guards, then we'll place armed guards. So it would be that comes through a series of discussions, continuing assessment, discussion with Scott Swinson, who we're working closely with to fine tune our security plan and basically determine what is best for our particular location.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Coyle or Mr. Kolwitz, I want to jump back to the employee parking thing, because this is a first time that we're hearing it. All of our other applicants, they never volunteered to do something like this, so this is unique. But what assurance do we have? Are there going to be random audits that we're doing to determine on which employees are actually parking offsite versus onsite? I know there's going to be a report that the company generates every 3, 6, and 9 month mark. But how do we ensure that those employees aren't parking on the actual property?
Chair Chavez, I'll start with this one. Excuse me. My apologies for coughing at all of you. There's 2 different special conditions that relate to this one, that they're interlinked. For anyone that's reading at home, it's conditions number 34 and 35 in the special use permit. And there's a couple of different things that happen here. So there is a report that happens at the 3, 6, and 9 month efforts. But leading up to that, there's actually a requirement for a monthly report that's provided to the city, or a monthly log, if you will, with the affidavit from the different employees that this is exactly how they're traveling. There's also a requirement that if there is reimbursement happening to employees, that there's proof of those receipts as well. So essentially, it's an evidentiary-based condition that we're looking for proof that this is how folks are getting around. If it indeed is a ride share program, or the van pool program, there can be ways for the applicant team to provide evidence to us, everything from a sign log, or perhaps, everyone's got a phone these days. So is there a quick group photo that we take every day? We could have a level of seriousness and yet a level of fun with this in some ways. But at the end of the day, what's the evidence that's being provided to us? The city staff has the ability to ask for more frequent reports than that, is the way that the condition is written, if there are questions. Overarching of the whole permit, not just these conditions, is the fact that this is a one-year permit that needs to be renewed annually. So if there is reason to believe and evidence that this condition is not being complied with, then we would be able to always use a revocation proceedings if it came to that. But the hope for all of us collectively is, if the project is approved, that staff is recommending tonight, that our applicants will be operating as they intend to and as they say that they will. And we have just compliance. That's ultimately what we're looking for.
Okay, thank you. My only thing was unintentionally an employee running late. I can't make it to the Vallarta parking lot. Let me just pull into where my employer is at. As we saw for me today, I was running late. But so I just wanted to see what measures we had in place to accomplish that. Okay, those will be my questions for right now. Commissioner, any additional questions from any of my fellow commissioners? If not, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing for this item. We do have a number of speakers for this item. So we'll go ahead and begin with our first one. What happened to the names? Oh, Grant and or Amanda Golver.
Hello, can you hear me, Commission?
Yes, you have 3 minutes.
All right, good evening, Commissioner Chair and the Commission. I am Grant Glover. I am calling in to advocate for Advocate Society. I don't have any fiscal or any kind of monetary tie to this company. The most prevalent tie that I have is familiar and friend of the families involved as far as the proprietors. And, I'd like to talk mainly based off of that. You've got two folks, two guys that are backing this venture that have been and been raised through and become pillars of this community. Ronnie Jenkins, his advocacy of the local community, the children outreaches I've been a part of with him in the past. I was very, very happy to hear about the Sunset Little League, which I used to coach in. I coached there for 5 years as my sons were coming through that age of baseball. So I loved to hear that somewhat fledgling youth program is going to be a focus for Advocate Society. So that's a bonus. But, again, I don't have a whole lot of fiscal background in this, but I do know that both people, Mr. Booker and Mr. Jenkins, they coach youth sports. They've been coaching youth football. They've been coaching speed and agility. They've been coaching my sons in particular since they were in fourth and fifth grade. And not only teaching them the finite skills of the sports and speed that they have a vast and very in-depth background in, but being a good person. And so when I sat here and listened to most of the conversation this evening, I heard a lot about questions about accountability. Being a 26-year veteran of the U.S. Armed Forces, accountability is big. You know, we're worried about accountability in our communities,
30
the
seconds
housing
left.
that's near, and so on and so forth. And both of these members, again, of our community that want to bring Advocate Society to fruition have been nothing but accountable for their actions when it comes to our youth here in this area. And I'm just very proud of both of them, and would like to give my endorsement of positivity towards seeking a thumbs up from the commission for this Advocate Society. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Goldberg. Did Amanda want to speak also, or did you cover for both?
So some folks might be smiling, thinking I just mansplained for my wife. If she knew that I had used the whole 3 minutes, I might be in trouble. But actually, she's actually, we just had a guest show up, so she's indisposed. I'm sorry. So I speak on behalf of us. Thank you.
No problem. I understand the marriage life right here. We'll go to our next speaker, Zahir Lahai.
Good evening, council and all members. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak on behalf of AVIX Group. We are, and I am the founder of Wheelhouse and Firehouse Dispensary, and we've had the pleasure of working with the advocacy group in a private community relationship, and they are absolutely pillars of the community. They know how to run their business correctly, and we are excited to have them as part of the community and part of the dispensary market. So just wanted to put voice out that we would love to have Advocacy Society approved, and welcome to the Oxnard community.
Thank you for your comments. The next speaker on the list is Musa Rahman. And I apologize for butchering your name.
No, you didn't butcher it. You said it just fine. Thank you.
Okay, you have 3 minutes.
Yes. I just like to say that as a lifetime resident here of Ventura County, and having had the pleasure of close-up relationships with both Mr. Jenkins and Mr. Booker in terms of my tenure with the Oxnard Stars track club, and being able to coach Mr. Booker and watch him grow up, him and Mr. Jenkins grow up in this community, and see them come back and produce the type of work that they've been doing, both with their food share programs and special programs they've had at Christmas time to give out gifts and such, and listen to what I've heard about their plans for hiring and keeping this and really helping to develop our Oxnard community. I have no doubt that the plans that they design are going to be exemplary for this community, and I wholeheartedly support and really just look forward to seeing what they do, and totally give my support to their effort in creating this business. And that's really all I had to say, but thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. The next speaker is Deandra Williams.
Good evening. My name is Deandra Williams. I'm a licensed vocational nurse and also coordinator of the medication-assisted treatment program at Santa Barbara County Jail. And although I work out of the county at the moment, I am a longtime resident of Ventura County, more importantly, Oxnard, and actually live in the Wagon Wheel community, refurbished as we speak. I just wanted to come on and provide support for the Advocate Society coming into the community, not only being that I know the gentleman personally and knowing how much of a strong community-based program that they run on numerous levels from youth to adulthood. I think being able to provide a local source that will provide a safe space for patients and just the community alone for, providing sources for anxiety or other types of mental illnesses that can be treated with CBD and cannabinoid options, especially on a local, more personable term. I feel like that's number one for finding solutions for harm reduction in our community, and being able to put it in an area of Oxnard that's now kind of refurbished and ever growing. I think it's a really, really positive move for the gentleman and for Oxnard to welcome a local dispensary along with all the others that are currently in business. And, I'm all in support of continuing with local sources that can provide safe spaces to get non-pharmaceutical options for providing ailments, treating ailments of all costs. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Our next speaker is Michael David.
Chair Chavez, I don't see Michael David in the call.
Okay, if he joins on later on, then we'll go ahead and honor his time within the allowed public hearing portion. Our next person is Chris Porras.
Chris is also not here.
Okay, now same thing for him. If he joins before the public hearing closes, we'll honor his time. Our next speaker is L. Jones.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yes, you have 3 minutes, Mr. Jones.
All right, thank you, Chairman Chavez and Commissioners. Good evening. I'd like to advocate and support the application for Advocacy Society. This is a stand-up group. I know Mr. Booker and Mr. Jenkins. They grew up in our local community. Both of these gentlemen ascended to the NFL. I've known Lorenzo and his family for a number of years. And Lorenzo was the #1 recruit in the entire nation. Now, what that represents is it's shown our brown and black kids and minority kids, it's shown that you can make it from Oxnard. They support youth activities, both boys and girls. They're premier role models. And we just can't understate how positive people like that affect our community. They represent social equity. They are the epitome of what social equity should be. Born and raised, good citizens, no criminal background records, been a positive influence in our community, and they give back to our community. I just really want to make sure that we as a city recognize, understand, and support individuals like this. I know the city mandates that these dispensaries give back 1% of their profits. They've gone beyond that prior to opening their dispensaries. So I just wanted to make sure that my voice was heard. I'm over a 50-year resident. I'm an Air Force veteran, former regional vice president for a bank. If we're going to have cannabis in our community, these are stand-up people who live here, who know our community. I think it's a tragedy that we have so many licenses that have been granted to people outside of our community. Yes, they'll do the 1%, but they won't buy cars here. They won't buy combs here. They won't go to our local grocery stores. They won't patronize our local restaurants. This, if we're going to do cannabis, this group is what we should be about as a city, and I fully support their application.
Thank you, Mr. Jones, for your comments. Those are all of the people that has signed up to speak prior to 3 p.m. of today. Any members that are currently on the call, if you wish to speak on this is item F1, Advocate Society, Cannabis Retail Special Use Permit for the location on North Vineyard Avenue. If you're calling from a landline, you will use the *9 feature to raise your hand. If you are utilizing a desktop or other mobile device for the app, you will use the raise hand feature or go into the reactions icon to raise. And our commission secretary will let me know who's next.
Chair Chavez, I see that there's 3 hands raised right now.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and pull the first one. And the first one is a phone number ending in 9442.
Good evening.
Yes, you have 3 minutes.
I know. This is Deirdre Frank. Thank you for allowing me to speak. First, Chair Chavez, I want to commend your activity in speaking a couple of evenings ago, and I'll just leave it at that. I tried to send you an email on that, and I don't know if you got it or not. I would like to know what the status is of the Rio Urbana project. You may recall, Chair, that this is the housing development that's going on there, that you were concerned about the elevators being in there. Anyway, right across from Vallarta Market, I haven't had an opportunity to read the staff report, so maybe you could comment on that for me and other people who are aware of that project involving the Rio School District and the LAFCO annexation that was pending at the time. Yeah, there's no neighborhood council there because it's an unincorporated area. So, and I would like to know what the demographics are, residential demographics are of this area. For example, I don't need to know how many people are white because I know we're in the minority. So in the future, when people ask about minority interests, they need to be addressing the white population. Because that was very apparent in City Council's meeting of Tuesday. But I'm more interested in how many people there are renting, how many people are in apartments, how many people are residential owners, because this is moving into an area that is undergoing potential development. We already reviewed that Rio Urbana project. And I know there was some difficulty with the Rio School District. There was some litigation, and perhaps Mr. Rosell or Mr. Kolowitz could comment on that so that you have a full picture of what the future environment of that location is going to be. And even though you're only supposed to consider what is there, for example, a childcare, if the childcare isn't there at the time this application comes through, it doesn't count if it comes in later. The issue here is that Rio Urbana was already entitled prior to this application coming in. So I'm just a little concerned that that doesn't come back to bite you
30 seconds
somewhere.
left.
And finally, I didn't know sports and being involved with sports was a qualification for getting a business license, but I'll make sure I sponsor more sports teams in the future. And I honestly did not appreciate the comment about marriage life and man speak. I find that to be sexist and a perpetuation of male and female roles in our society. And I didn't like it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Frank, and we'll have staff address your concerns. Our next speaker I see is Sergio Martinez.
Hi, good evening. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, you have 3 minutes.
Hi, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. I'm calling to throw my full support for Advocate Society to receive their special use permit for a dispensary here in Oxnard. I happen to have worked for the city of Oxnard for about 23 years as a battalion chief of the fire department, and I have been involved in many difficult, complicated projects in the city. And I got many opportunities to listen and see different plans put in, different ideas for businesses. And this is what we need here in Oxnard. We need to encourage our local youth, our local athletes, our stars, people who live and grew up in this community, that they can be part of this community, succeed in whatever their goals are in life, be here and come back and be a part of this community. And these two gentlemen are like a gentleman said, these are the pillar of our community. They are so good with the community, so generous. I know personally that for many years they would provide their own money to help youth groups throughout the community, even before this this kind of business came up. And all I see is a positive positive things happening with them with the dispensary. Like the previous gentleman, I am from my community. I grew up here. I worked here for many years, and I'm very proud to say that I fully support Advocate Society in getting their special use permit approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Martinez, for your comments. Next speaker is Chris Hernandez.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, you have 3 minutes.
Hi, thank you. My name is Chris Hernandez. I'm the Vice Chair of the 5 Points Neighborhood Council, and I'm calling to support Advocate Society. And I just want to say to the commission that, you know, I know it's a tough job what you guys are doing to take criticism, and I do commend you guys for continuing to come out and do your job and to try to do your job as fair as you can. We know we all have our, you know, separate emotions and we all have our separate likings, but from the most part, what I've seen from this commission is that you guys do a great job. So thank you for that. Advocate Society, I think they're just a local inspiration, local heroes, a group of superstar team of heroes to many kids in sports, in youth, and just in school and in policing. I mean, you've got it all here. We've got champions. We've got, you know, D1 and NFL prospect players here. We've got Randy Latimer, who I personally don't know any of these guys, but throughout my whole life here living in Oxnard, I've always heard their names growing up. And I've always strived to do great things like what they've done, because being in sports does keep you out of trouble, and it does put you at a separate level to continue to succeed in life. It provides you with different values and morals and a go-get-it attitude, which is what they're doing now. They're giving back to the community. They're choosing to give back to sports. They can choose to give to any organization, but sports is what really, you know, what they probably have most at heart and they can relate to here in the community of Oxnard. And we mustn't, you know, bring race into this, but we shouldn't dismiss the fact that we are colored people. We have, you know, lived through adversities and overcame adversities our whole lives. So you should take us into consideration and you cannot dismiss us. And we are the minority. So don't try to take that from us now. So moving forward, aside from all that, looking forward, all the factual things is they've gotten points. They've provided awesome alternatives to the parking situation. They're going to provide their own transportation to their employees, not only saving them money, but saving the residents around the neighborhood parking spaces.
30 seconds left.
I believe they've done a great job and they deserve to move forward with this application. And I thank them all for what they're doing and continue to do greatness in our city of Oxnard. Thank you very much.
Next speaker is Yadiri.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. So as I was turning on the TV, I stumbled on YouTube, came across the meeting and sat down and listened. So I'm a mother of 3 children under the age of 7. I, in a way, grew up in the area of El Rio. And yes, it is in an incorporated area. I may be a little not too much aware of the cannabis and so forth, but when I was listening to the meeting is just if sports is being mentioned a lot, and I'm sure that you've done great job with teaching youth and educating youth and providing those skills in sports. Right now, what I'm trying to say is why bring that type of product to an area where it's still being developed, in the sense of bringing youth out of like the crime, pandillas, and so forth, because we need more. Yes, of course, I'm sure that you've done the best in life and obviously coming back, providing to the community in the city. But why cannabis? Why cannabis? And again, why Oxnard bringing cannabis into the area, especially El Rio? I'm sure I've heard that you are all taking the steps in reducing parking space and keeping it safe, bringing security. But again, why cannabis? Again, in an area, for example, real quick, I grew up in Island Acres, again, cannabis. In an area, going back to El Rio, my point here is why couldn't another option of another product being brought into the area to still provide to the city some sort of percentage, but at the end profit? But why, again, cannabis into an area where we have youth still trying to figure out themselves? And why not using, again, the sports, bringing up some sort of business in sports to be able to bring youth out of the poverty that they're currently in within El Rio. So again, I'm not here to dismiss anyone, but I guess I'm kind of opposing. I am opposing because I'm not
30 seconds left.
But I wanted to say again, I do want to congratulate you, hearing based on your experiences in life and being able to come back to our city and bringing to our city. And it seems like you have been given to the city, but at the same time, again, why cannabis? Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. I see a phone number ending in 2301. 2301.
Good evening. This is Rodney Medina.
Yes, go ahead. You have 2
Thank
minutes.
you. Thank you, Commissioner Chavez, and all you other commissioners there doing your diligent, you're doing your due diligence for the community. I'm Rodney Medina. I actually grew up in El Rio, born and raised here in Oxnard. And a little bit about me, I've been working in cannabis as a content creator that teaches the health benefits of cannabis. I'm also a cannabis advocate. I've advocated for legalization when it started coming to fruition here in Oxnard. But more importantly, I'm a social equity advocate. And, you know, cannabis has a huge stigma in this country, longstanding stigma. And it's unfortunate because of the good that cannabis can do for so many people who need its medicinal qualities. And, you know, it's through that education that I hope that groups like Advocate Society can reach out into the community and let them see what it can do for our veterans, for the elderly, and for other even specific women's issues. There are things that cannabis can do for people that because of that stigma, we as a society have not been privy to that education yet. And so we look forward to organizations like Advocate Society come in and be able to lead that education to the community, to soften that stigma, to help get rid of it. And as a social equity advocate, you know, I'm completely behind Advocate Society. I mean, look, people of color, finally, it's very difficult for people of color to get into this industry because investors only want to invest money in people who look like them. And that's not us. That's not them. So for them to stick their neck out and get into this industry and brave these waters to be able to do it and stake their claim is really important. It's really important for minorities, other minorities, to see this, because neighborhoods like El Rio, Colonia, South Oxnard, they were the most affected by these racist laws on the war on drugs. And they were racist. They were completely, prohibition was built on the ability to stop Mexicans on the street,
30 seconds left,
detain them, and get rid of them. That's how prohibition started here in California. So people need to know the history, understand the history, and hopefully by seeing people of color in these leadership roles, they'll be able to make amends in these communities and show people that
that people of color can lead in this industry. So I fully support Advocate Society. Good luck, gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr. Medina, for your comments. I don't see any other hands. Anyone that's on the call, if you wish to speak for this item, again, this is item F1, Advocate Society, Special Use Cannabis Retail. You may press *9 if you're calling from a landline to raise your hand. If you're utilizing a mobile app or desktop app, you can use the raise hand feature. I don't see any, so we'll go ahead and start our 3-minute timer. For any additional members of the public wishing to participate for this item, may do so by viewing the bottom of your screen for the calling number, meeting ID, as well as the passcode. At this time, we'll go to Mr. Kolwitz and Mr. Coyle if they want to respond to any comments that were made by the public or provide any additional information.
Chair Chavez and members of the Planning Commission, thank you for that. I'm going to take on the Rio Urbana update for all of you, and then we'll turn it over to Jose to also talk about buffers, if you will, from sensitive uses. So for the Rio Urbana project, as you may recall, that was a 167 unit condominium project and 15,000 square foot office complex that's being built on the site of the old Rio Elementary School, just to the north of the Vallarta Shopping Center. That project, after the Planning Commission reviewed it, City Council reviewed it and approved it. And then LAFCO, the Local Agency Formation Commission, also approved the project, annexing it into the city. The applicant has continued to move forward with it after that project, after those approvals, and they are now actively undergoing plan check, which means that their construction program, their construction plans are being reviewed at this point in time. All of that means every indication is that it's a real project, and we are anticipating it to break ground this year. Advocate Society, if approved tonight, as recommended by staff, will have some new neighbors to the north of the shopping center. So I'll leave it at that for the time being for Rio Urbana, and I'll turn it over to Jose regarding the sensitive uses question.
Hello, I'll be going ahead and talking about sensitive uses that currently exist at the site and what may be happening if this project were to be approved. So as part of this cannabis permit request tonight, there was a zoning clearance that was needed in order to go ahead and take in this application. Both during the zoning clearance and to current, there is no sensitive uses that have been identified at the site. However, this does not preclude other sort of uses to go in after this permit if it were to be approved, which means that if a school, daycare facility, or a youth center were to locate within 600 feet, they may do so following the appropriate licensing and permitting processes. This would basically not have any impact to this approval if this were to be approved tonight.
Thank you. That sounds like it summed up all the questions that the public had. The remaining time, how much time do we have remaining of that 3 minutes?
It's 3 seconds.
Okay. Did we have anyone else pop up?
No, I didn't see anyone.
Okay, so at this time, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing portion, and we'll move to our commission if they have any questions or comments / deliberations for this applicant. Commissioner Connolly.
I have a comment, and it in my notes, it really echoes what all of the public said. Growing up in Oxnard and living here for the majority of my life, I've heard Mr. Booker's name and Mr. Jenkins' name many, many times, always in a positive light. I've seen them many, many times out in the public doing amazing things for the community. And I believe as athletes and as humans, they've really done things exceptionally and really represented our community exceptionally. And I've also heard the name Advocate Society and never related the two, that they were related. So I'm excited to hear that this is their venture, and I fully plan to support it. So thank you so much, gentlemen.
Thank you, Commissioner Connolly. Commissioner Meyer.
Thank you, Chair Chavez. No questions, just comment. I'm really glad to see we have a truly local applicant and a minority applicant to boot. I think at the risk of discussing matters of race in any level, which is extremely uncomfortable for Americans, just because only 15% of the residents in Oxnard are considered white doesn't mean that they're minorities. It means, you know, when you're in a white power structure and these are the majority of wealth, land, power is still concentrated among mostly white people, you're not a minority. So we're talking about the minorities, Black and brown people that have been unduly mistreated in the war on drugs that has been going on for decades. And there's been lip service and there's been small attempts to create social equity to support that. And I'm glad that Oxnard has done its due diligence to try to support that as well. But you know, it's important to understand that cannabis is a substance that is equally used by people of all races, but the enforcement has come down historically up to this day dramatically against Black and brown people. And so it's important that we have some of the benefits of this now legalized substance to be going towards qualified applicants that are local as well. So I'm glad to see that. I think it's important to understand that the industry itself, prior to being legal, the reason that we have one is because there was a black market, and unfortunately it remains, and it's still very effective and still very profitable, and it sources the rest of the country as it has, despite its illegality. And the more dispensaries that we have, legal dispensaries that are located in neighborhoods like El Rio, which is a challenged neighborhood economically and is largely people of color who live there. And for them to have opportunities then for good paying jobs in the industry and to see it in a different light from being only a black market that does not benefit the people in that way and creates dangerous situations for employment and dangerous situations for an unregulated substance that could cause harm. These are all positive steps that are being taken. So I hope callers can take in that information and broaden their perception of what's going on here. Because cannabis is here. It was here before the dispensaries, and that's not what's bringing cannabis into the community. But this is bringing legal cannabis into the community, and it's bringing the jobs, it's bringing the tax revenue and the community benefit revenue to our community. So I think those are all positives. Great to have local applicants who are local legends involved, and great that they support sports, which is the path that they took to their success, which makes perfect sense that they would then support sports for their community benefits as well as other causes. So I appreciate all of that, and I look forward to supporting this project.
Thank you, Commissioner Meyer, for your comments. Commissioner Nash.
Thank you, Chair Chavez. As a point of clarification, are we making deliberative comments right now?
Yes, deliberative comments or any questions that you may want to ask.
Okay, I have two questions for our planning staff, and then I'll make my deliberative comment. Mr. Coyle and Mr. Kolwitz, just to put the nail in the coffin, there is no daycare or a preschool planned for the Rio Urbana project on site?
No, there is no sensitive uses for this site.
Okay, I think it's a little late in the game for our dispensary approval process, but I would like to see a map with a 600-foot I guess it would be a 600-foot radius superimposed over the site on a general map of the area so that we could anticipate some of these concerns that were raised by former planning chairperson Frank. So those are my two comments. Now, I do want to make some general comments on the project. I am really pleased with the employee transportation plan proposed by Advocate Society. I think that can be a role model for a lot of our other businesses in Oxnard. It serves many needs besides preserving parking spaces for customers and clients. It's also a way to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and so I'm 100% in favor of that. And I do want to thank Advocate Society for being a front runner in this very important aspect to deal with climate change. So I think that overall this is a pretty good project. I'm a little disappointed that our discussions are starting to involve charges of racism and such. I know that is, I'm always in a precarious position because of my skin color to talk about racism. But that's one of the reasons why I love Oxnard, is because I felt like our city could look beyond skin color, but based on what I heard at the city council meeting this last week and some of the online comments I've read, it's starting to rear its ugly head here in Oxnard. Where it's always existed, but a lot of us have tried our best to deal with it and be impartial and be fair, regardless of the color of one's skin. So I'm prepared to support this project, and I welcome them to the community of Oxnard. And that's all, Chair Chavez. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Commissioner Nash. Commissioner Dr. Lopez.
Good evening, everyone. General feedback and comments. First to the applicant team, thank you so much for expressing, an interest in stepping into this arena and this business world. It's new. Oxnard's been very deliberate. Some people would even critique it that we dragged our feet as a city, not necessarily getting ahead of Port Hueneme, and just now getting to this point of approving licenses. So I know it's been a long time coming. I know that sometimes, it doesn't move fast enough, but nonetheless, you all have demonstrated that commitment, that persistence, to bring your application before the planning committee here tonight. Like Commissioner Connolly and Chair Chavez, also a graduate of Hueneme High School, and so I think I might have been a freshman in '95 when Rodney broke that rushing national record. And so, it's just great to see 25 years later, someone, not only in yourself, but with your applicant team all coming together. I think one of the speakers, it might've been Al or Sergio, who mentioned, we see the distinction between our local applicants, right, and those who are looking to grow and expand their business from other parts of California. So not to sound cheesy, it warms my heart, and I say that with all the respect. I think there's many aspects of your application that stood out in your presentation that you prepared and presented tonight. Just looking at your organization chart for your staff, everyone that you identified on staff who is a local social equity resident or just a local resident, whether it's throughout your organization, on the sales side, on the back house side, and obviously in your
leadership, I very much appreciated. Whichever speaker said it, I almost wish that the city would have been maybe a little bit more proactive to provide more social equity applications to folks, because as the speaker mentioned, these are folks who are invested here, who have been invested here, who live here, who work here, who are raising their families here, who are going to buy homes here, who are going to buy cars here, who are going to, just further stimulate the local economy. And so, the location, I'll say, clearly it met all of the criteria and all of the requirements for the city. I think that my only concern is what is becoming, perhaps an oversaturation of our cannabis licenses in the Vineyard corridor. But that, again, is not your fault. It's not our fault. It's on the people, who were in elected office, who adopted our ordinance. And so you will have competition, but I do think that with your athletic background, you will know how to, be creative about that competition. They mentioned the housing that's going to be developed across the street as of yesterday or whatever day, 2 nights ago, maybe, with City Council. There's also going to be a Starbucks in what is the Wendy's, existing Wendy's right there on Vineyard and Ventura Boulevard. So that will also generate additional traffic. I will tell you that, there is a general perception of a problem with traffic. I'd like to believe that the folks who are in our city management and city leadership now, as well as, Starbucks as a corporate player and you all might be interested in just paying attention to that. Maybe I think Randy Latimer might have mentioned, being in contact with your neighbors, the other business owners, to see how you could be proactive in mediating, whatever traffic concerns folks may have, and maybe coming together to, request from the state that they come examine that intersection. Particularly, it's a state road there in El Rio, and so I think all things considered, like the other commissioners thus far, I too am, excited and prepared to support this. And as I've mentioned to all the other applicants thus far, and the other commissioners are probably tired of me hearing it, but really, if approved tonight, I just want to wish you the absolute best. As I've told the other applicants, your success is our success, is our community success. I very much appreciate all the work that you demonstrated, including your presentation of what you've done to give back. And so, I like that there is some variation and coverage of the larger city of Oxnard, including, you mentioned Sunset Little League. But maybe in year 2, year 3, once you are all successful and thriving, maybe consider a second Little League there closer to your business with El Rio Little League. I know there's a great need, and I know that those little kids and those families would just wholeheartedly appreciate your support, whether it's just motivational speaking, or being able to help offset some of the expenses that too many families sometimes struggle to provide with equipment and whatnot. But again, congratulations on the long road traveled, and it sounds like thus far there might be majority support, without getting ahead of myself. And so just wish you all the absolute best with your endeavor here. Congratulations.
Thank you, Commissioner Dr. Lopez. Any additional comments? I'll just provide my comments. Mr. Jenkins, I asked you in terms of which high school you had graduated from, and Wainimi High School, and as Commissioner Dr. Lopez just mentioned, myself, Commissioner Connolly, and him are all graduates of Wainimi High School. In 1995, I think I was in kindergarten, maybe first grade. So sorry, but definitely had a lasting effect on South Oxnard. Unfortunately, tonight, it's very disappointing, and everyone on this call, lifelong residents, can agree. It is disappointing when race comes up, as opposed to just viewing something on its merits. Race is not a deciding factor for any application that comes before the commission. We view it on its merits and the community. But unfortunately, it came back up again, just like it did a couple of nights ago at City Council. So I hope the day will come where our city can evolve and not feel that that's the only talking point, but there it is. In terms of this application, when I first heard that there was an employee parking, the conditions 34 and 35, that employees won't park on the property, I thought that was very interesting, very unique, because no other application for cannabis has come before us in those terms of having their employees not park, but then provide alternatives for them to get to work, to get back home. And that's why I made the comment in regards to Gold Coast Transit, because Gold Coast does have a few bus routes that go into the area that maybe there are monthly passes that can be able to have some type of offset to be able to benefit the employees, so that they're not only use them for work, but they can use those passes for recreational, visit family, go to the schools, go to stores, wherever they may be. I'm pleased that the city can, if they feel, request more information in regards to the parking, not just wait for those 3 segment periods during the year. But it's unique. And like Commissioner Nash said, it could be a model for other businesses to do the exact same thing. And it does reduce the greenhouse gases. And so awesome for thinking outside of the box on that. In terms of the community outreach, yes, it's a little bit different because there's not really within the sphere of that needs to be reached out to, but it sounds like you reached out to neighborhoods, and even neighborhoods that are not active, and even into the unincorporated area, which I appreciate, because trying to get back the input from the public is one of those findings that the commission has to view and to determine what are the effects are going to be. It sounds like there's a lot of positive feedback, which is great. Mr. Jones, one of the public speakers, he hit the nail right on the head when he talked about equity and that how our city should have had more of it. A few applications ago, I questioned the equity on one because an individual had multiple cannabis dispensaries, but yet they were getting an equity permit. And I thought that was wrong. Clearly, you know as well as I know, and every other commissioner, the values of the city of Oxnard and where our people truly have our visions and our goals at. It is to raise up our families, is to empower everyone in our communities. And clearly that's what this company is doing by their support of supporting local groups. Not the Boys and Girls Club, although it's a great organization, but to see more local, smaller organizations that oftentimes are overlooked being supported is great. I appreciate you coming and being willing to take the risk of starting a business in the city of Oxnard, because that's what it is. Any person that ends up starting a business, it's a risk. And you have to really keep everyone happy. And unfortunately, not everyone will be happy, but you do your best. So I appreciate it. And that will end my comments. Commissioners, any additional comments? And if there's not, we'll take a motion. Commissioner Nash.
If there's no additional comments from the commissioners, I move that we approve the staff recommendation.
Okay, Commissioner Dr. Lopez.
Second.
Okay, It's been moved and second that the planning commission find the project to be categorically exempt from environmental review pursuant to California Environmental Quality Act guidelines, section 15301, existing facilities, and adopt a resolution 2022 XX approving planning and zoning permit number 21-516-17, special use permit, cannabis retail, subject to certain findings and conditions. Is there any discussion on that motion? Seeing and hearing none, Madam Secretary, can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Nash,
Aye.
Commissioner Dr. Lopez,
Aye.
Commissioner Connolly,
Aye.
Commissioner Meyer,
Yes.
Chair Chavez,
Aye.
motion passes.
Thank you and congratulations. We'll go ahead and proceed to our next item, which is that's G3. And we welcome back our vice chair. Project name is the Starbucks and fast food drive-through and parcel map on Ives. Planning and zoning permit number 21-300-04 and 21-500-06 special use permit and 21-500-07 special use permit. This is located at 1600 Ives Avenue. A request to authorize the demolition of an existing 8,868 square foot building and subdivide an existing 1.78 acre project area into 2 lots with new development. The proposed development includes the construction of a 983 square foot coffee house, Starbucks, with the drive-through that makes no sense. With the drive-through of 14 vehicle capacity on a 0.79 acre lot and a 2,533 square foot fast food restaurant, just titled fast food, with the drive-through with 9 vehicle capacity on a 0.99 acre site. And related to site improvements, including 72 shared parking spaces, sidewalks, patios, and landscaping. The project site is located within the Channel Islands Business Center, the Commercial General Plan Development Zone District, and within the Commercial General Land Use Designation. This is filed by Hassan. I'm not even going to try that. I will just butcher that, so I apologize. Our city staff person on this is Jay Duborowski, Senior Planner. The recommendation is that the Planning Commission finds the project to be categorically exempt from environmental review pursuant to CEQA guidelines section 15332 infill development. Adopt a resolution 2022 XX approving planning and zoning permits number 21-300-04, 21-500-06 special use permit, 21-500-07 special use permit. Once again, as a reminder to my colleagues and the public, a pre-recorded presentation is on the city's website in accordance with Measure M. We'll now turn to our staff person, Mr. Duborowski, for any additional information.
Thank you, Chair Chavez. At this time, planning staff has no further comment. Planning staff is available for any questions. The applicant team is with us this evening. They do have a presentation and they are also available for any questions.
Thank you. Commissioners, if there's no objection, we'll have the applicant team provide their presentation and then we'll do our combined questioning afterwards. I see no objections to that. So the applicant team, once your presentation is up, you may begin. Please introduce your team that you have with you tonight.
Good evening. My name is Hassan Amir Sadeghi. I'm the developer of this project, and I would like to thank the Commission for allowing us to present our application tonight. As you can see, my background is I've been in the commercial real estate for over 30 years, and during the past 20 years, I've developed multiple drive-through sites for Starbucks and other national tenants. I found this location to be suitable for Starbucks, and they are already on board. We've signed a lease with them, and I have a very competent team working with us. And I look forward to continuing with this project if it's approved tonight. And it will undoubtedly bring a lot of revenue for the city, and it's an improvement to the existing location that it's a kind of a sort of a disused restaurant. I would like to just pass it on to our architect, Scott. And if you have any questions, I'm here to answer. And I, again, would like to thank you for your indulgence. Thank you.
So thank you, Chair. Commissioners, I'm Scott Boydston with Rasmussen and Associates Architects in Ventura. We've been in the area since 1946, done a number of projects in the city, and are happy to be a part of this project. As was stated and probably seen in the staff presentation, which I think was very thorough, this is actually two projects which share a parking lot together. The Starbucks is the known entity at this point. The fast food does not have a sort of tenant and is still being marketed out in the marketplace. But a number of fast food people have been interested in it. Some of the nuances of this site, it is at the sort of blighted corner at the entry to the Channel Islands Business Center. On the other side of the street, as you all probably know, a medical facility is under construction, Clinicas, to bring a bunch of their sort of functions together into one facility. It's going to be a hub for them in the South Oxnard area and attract a lot of people to it. Also to the, I guess it's east or west is a future housing project that I think just went through council and has an overlay zone on it. So for housing, it's kind of unique in the to have housing as part of a business center, industrial center. But I think it's a long time coming when we start to create housing for workers that are next to, residential units next to where workers can live and walk to work. So I think we're feeding off a lot of those things. We think this center will be walkable. We think a lot of people are going to be walking. Gold Coast has even has a future bus route within 100 feet on our property. They're gonna put a bus stop, so we'll get a number of people riding the bus that will service the center, and I think also our facility. Unique, I think, with this Starbucks is that it is a very small prototype and has no interior chairs or dining or anything. It's meant to service not only drive-through in its typical capacity, but it has a walk-up window because they anticipate a lot of people will be walking to here. So this site is connected numerous ways to the public sidewalks so that we can pick up traffic walking on the streets. Also unique to this site is the 30-foot landscape buffers that happen all around the site and the existing berming that shields cars and parking lots with landscaping attached to them. Another unique thing about the site is that the Starbucks drive-through is internal to the building, so it doesn't run parallel to any streets. The fast food runs parallel to Statham, but it's shielded from Oxnard Boulevard by a very large monument sign for the center. And the building actually has been designed so that it extends out over the drive-through with a major building facade. So in fact, it looks like the drive-throughs are actually running through a building, not just under a canopy. We've done similar Starbucks like this in Ventura, on Victoria and Moon, to great success. We just completed another Starbucks over near the Auto Center, the design with In-N-Out being a neighbor. So I think this kind of center works well in this area. Next slide. Next slide, please. So this is how an image of the possible design for the fast food. And you can see component of it being outside dining facing the Oxnard Boulevard. Next slide, please. This is the Starbucks, and you can see really a very small building in itself, set back 30 feet from the street, but the predominant sort of public aspect of it is that it allows people to walk and have a walk-up window and gathering area specifically for walk-up. Next slide. So here you get a general view of how the site works. You can start to see the queuing lanes. Next slide. This is the inbound access to the fast food queuing lane. Next slide. This is the queuing lane for Starbucks. And note again, it runs around the inside of the site, as opposed to typically you're running them around the outside of the site. Next slide. This is how one exits from the fast food. We organized it around a central driveway. Next slide. And how the coffee cafe Starbucks exits. Really straightforward circulation patterns. Next slide. These two slides are just meant to show that we can actually make turning radiuses in cars and get in and out of the site. Next slide. It's both sides. Next slide. So included in this, as with any, as you know, are traffic demand management plans, which talks about how people are directed around the site and with what devices. ATE engineers, traffic engineers out of Santa Barbara, well known in our community, has done a lot of these for us. And Daryl Nelson is here to answer some questions and go through some specific details on queuing. Next slide, please. I think did we go back one, or is this the next one? Oh, this just turning radiuses out of the queues. Next slide. You can start to see how the radiuses actually work. These are traffic engineers, so they like these little diagrams showing all these radiuses. Next slide. We have a few stop signs to make sure that people aren't running over or into other people. We also have a striped clear zone right at the intersection after the entry throat. So that's an area that is going to be actively policed in operations to keep clear. Next slide. And these are just how many cars can get in the queue. The fast food has 9 before you get out into the drive aisles. The Starbucks has 14. And, you know, we probably watched council Monday night, and there was a lot of talk about point of sales and how Starbucks deals with that. 12th car in tends to be the point of sales, which is at the beginning of our entry. Next slide. We also worked with staff because, as you know, with all of these, the big question or the elephant in the room is, well, these things overflow at times, so what are you going to do about it? So we work with your traffic engineer to develop a strategy where cones would actually be put out, and cars would be redirected to take an alternate route to the entry to their respective queues. And you can start to see how we really start to get in peak hours, if we have to, as an alternative, stack people on site instead of ever going out into the right-of-ways, the streets. And also the signage that sort of goes along with it. Next slide. So at this point, I'll turn it over, and hopefully these are sort of the backgrounds on how you determine queues and if they work. I'll turn it over to the traffic engineer, and hopefully he won't be too intricate in his presentation, but just to show that we have the backup data for the type of queues, the length of queues, and the circulation that we expect for this project. Daryl? Is Daryl Nelson on? There he is. You're muted.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right, great. My name is Daryl Nelson. I'm with Associated Transportation Engineers. We prepared the traffic management plan for the project. Scott, you did an excellent job of going over the discussion of the queuing. We looked at the queue in both the Starbucks and the fast food restaurant to see if the drive-through storage was sufficient. And we compared that to the national data. And what you see on the screen right now is national data for coffee shops. And 1 second here. The national data says that a 13 vehicle queue is typical. That's your 85th percentile. That's what you can expect on a regular basis. And in this case, the project is providing queues for 14 vehicles. Can we go back 2 slides? This one's fine. So you can see on this slide that they're providing a queue for 14, where again, the national data suggests that 13 is the 85th percentile, or what you would most likely see occurring. For the fast food, we used, assumed a McDonald's. And again, if you look at the national data, the McDonald's queues for a hamburger, if this is a hamburger fast food restaurant, then we're looking at a queue of about 12 vehicles. The project is only providing queues for 9, but by this figure, you can see that the 12th vehicle is still on site and is not backing up onto the street. And that's what we're trying to prevent. We don't want cars backing up onto I's when they come to get queued up in the drive-throughs. Can we go to the next slide? That one, great. So again, Scott explained this to you that we work with the traffic engineering staff to say, okay, what happens if we do have long queues? How do we manage it? And that's where we came up with this plan where we would cone off the entrance points and have the traffic redirect itself through the site. Again, maintaining that queue on site and not having it go off onto the street and affecting the operation of the intersection. So this is an active plan where people on site will be out there and monitoring to make sure that the cars are circulating inbound and outbound without affecting the street or the on-site circulation. And that's generally our presentation. And if we have any other questions, I'm here to answer them.
Daryl, you might just go through some of, just really quick, not even sort of discussing it, but some of the data slides I think are important to show what you actually analyzed. That's in this set, if you keep going.
Well, again, these are surveys that we collected at other similar facilities. Starbucks, one in Lompoc, one in Oxnard, one in Simi Valley. And you can see based on that queue data, we're in that range of what the project is providing in terms of storage for the drive-through queues. You can go to the next slide. Again, and this is data that we collected for McDonald's. And without getting too detailed with what those numbers say, but it's collected every 5 minutes, and we're looking for the peak queues of those drive-throughs. And again, the project is providing storage for 9. The data suggests that we're fine as far as the queue of what we're providing on site. And this is, you don't have to show the rest of the slides because they're all different each other.
Just to wrap up our presentation, then I want the commission to know that we had read all the conditions from staff, and we accept those conditions. And then finally, we would just ask the Planning Commission to approve our project per staff recommendations. Thank you. And we're open for questions. We have a civil engineer is here to talk about site drainage if you want to do that. Daryl's here, and I am here also.
Great. Thank you for the presentation. Commissioners, any questions for staff or the applicant? Vice Chair Rijo.
Thank you, Chair Chavez. I have 3 questions just to give you a preview in regards to the art feature, the handicap spaces, and the cones, and related traffic queuing. I'll go in that order that I said. In regards to the landscape area, I just want to ask about that public art feature, more in how big it is or what is it going to be? If someone from the applicant team can tell me about that.
Yeah, I can answer that question. The public art feature is there. It's a series of poles, as you know, that was put in when the park was first initiated, I think a long time ago. It is owned and maintained by the Channel Islands Business Center Association. And so it's not really a part of our project. We expect to have it stay. In fact, I think we are going to push to see if we can't get the association to do a better job at maintaining the public art, which I think they have not done a real good job at doing on any of the frontages. So we're going to actively try and push them, since we all pay association fees, to actively maintain that and restore it. We've put that request in already, but haven't received a response. They have reviewed our project and have given us an approval letter for the project. On the same note, the 30-foot landscape setback is also an association landscape easement maintenance. So all of the landscaping in that area, we're going to enhance it, but it will continue to be maintained by the association.
Thank you for that answer. Appreciate that. I just wasn't sure if there was going to be replacement and adding a removal and then replacement. So thank you for that. I'd like to go generally in regards to the handicap spaces. You know what? I don't need a map right now, but I was looking at how the queuing is going to go out of the fast food, not the queuing, but after it's getting out and going back onto Ives Avenue. Is there only one route, or are there a couple of routes that it can get out of the parking lot? I can clarify further, but I would just like to hear or see what the intended route is, and how you would be able to maintain that. And I'm asking in particular to possible cars blocking the handicap spaces.
Yeah, I don't think that we expect that the handicap, that we're ever going to get to a situation where we have to cone off the two entrances both at the same time, and thereby have this huge stacking that swings around the whole parking lot. I think that's an extreme. What the data shows is that you may get one or two cars outside of the queues that we already have. So the site is organized with a central driveway and then two side driveways. So they are three access ways to get to the street exit onto Ives. And, you know, having one exit onto Ives was generally part of the existing street pattern for the business center. You'll see that there aren't any exits onto Statham by either of the properties on the east or the west.
Yeah, so I just want to confirm that your intention is only to put cones near the entry exit going to Ives Avenue. Is that correct?
That would be correct.
Okay, and then I'd like to push back in your favor in regards to not putting cones around the handicap. I asked that in particular because there are several stores, restaurants that do have fast food drive-throughs, and they do sometimes partially or fully block with cones. I see that the traffic patterns going through or the circulation would make that more unlikely, but it does happen in other cities and this one. And it is a particular concern of mine because I have reduced my patronage of those places due to family members that need handicaps. So I appreciate that. So that pushback was actually in your favor. I'd like to state that. And those are all the questions I have. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Vice Chair Rejo. Commissioner Nash.
Thank you, Chair Chavez. I have a couple of questions for both staff and the applicant, and I'll go with staff first. Does the Planning Commission have any say-so in the architectural elements of a project? And that's a question for staff.
Sorry, Chair Nash, I was having difficulty with my microphone. The short answer is yes. As part of the project that you're looking at, it's the whole of the project that's before you today. The Planning Commission, it's not a traditional architectural review board. We have, as staff, worked with a on-call landscape architect who has reviewed and provided comments on the project, and the applicant team has responded to those comments. So it has had a architectural dialogue that's already occurred at this point in time. At the end of the day, though, the whole of the project is before the Planning Commission, so you are able to make those comments.
Okay, thank you for that response. Is this portion of Oxnard Boulevard considered to be a scenic highway or a scenic corridor?
Jay, it is, right?
Yes, Commissioner, that's correct. The entirety of Oxnard Boulevard is a scenic roadway as designated in the general plan. As such, a general plan policy requires a 30-foot landscape buffer. This project does include 30 feet worth of landscaping adjacent to Oxnard Boulevard.
Okay, thank you for that. Now, this area is a business park. It's transitioning to other uses. So I know that design standards are different for a business park than what you would find in a residential. when there's a conflict, when the two areas are adjacent, which design standard should take precedence?
Is this still a staff question or?
Yes, I'm sorry.
The Channel Islands Business Park standards are what ultimately, if they're in conflict, the general plan ultimately is the thing that would win. However, as we look at the implementation of this project within the Channel Islands Business Park area or center, those rules and regulations do apply.
Okay. I guess I can transition to the applicant right now, and probably their architect. I know in the staff report, you refer to the design of the Starbucks and the fast food as being, I believe, modernist. That may be true, and it may fit the design standards of what a business park calls for, but it is so lacking in, the human element. And there is residential being planned, and I would just, I'm so disappointed to see that, basically what you're giving us are four walls and a flat roof, and there's just nothing to it, to me, that would suggest this is a place for people. So I don't know if and I understand that design enhancements cost money, but it just seems like and I'm trying to put this in a question, that you could tweak the design a little bit more to make it more friendly to people, and because you are expecting pedestrians especially to have a substantial walk-up business for your Starbucks. So I'm just wondering if there's any leeway where you might be willing to enhance the design elements.
Well, I think the simple answer to that is yes. I think it can be enhanced. What you're seeing here is the new corporate Starbucks rollout that they're doing for their product line. They've essentially revamped how they do their stores. This one is unique in the fact that it doesn't have any interior dining space, so you see less windows essentially on it. It's a kiosk more than anything. So what they've tried to do is, with using different types of materials, steel, the planking or the wood siding, to start to give it more of a human scale as opposed to just doing it all in stucco. And it does have varying roof height elements. It has the wood slatted screen on the top, the walk-up window area is higher, and so is the drive-through. So it does have those kinds of elements. Again, we were working within the modern aesthetic of the business center and the buildings that are existing sort of around it, which are more boxy in shape. But I also would point out that this is a 900 square foot building, 30 feet back from the street, the scenic highway, with a 3-foot berm in front of it, with meandering sidewalks and new trees. So from a project standpoint, I think the street frontage, the scenic highway, these buildings are going to be minimal backdrop buildings.
And I appreciate that, and I'm certainly no architect, but it just seems so bare to me. with the Starbucks, I didn't see any tables or seating for the walk-ups. Is that intentional, or do you plan to add any type of seating?
That, at this point, that was intentional, because in order to add seating, we would have to add another public bathroom, which makes the building bigger, and they didn't really want to do that. So they wanted to keep it from the standpoint of their traditional walk-up, which is you get your coffee and you take it home with you.
In your vehicle?
Well, no, either if you're walking, you take it home, obviously in a bag, or if you're in your vehicle, yes, you take it home in your vehicle, or your business, or, you know, wherever you're walking from.
Did Starbucks, and I know that they probably, I'm sure that they did they conduct a study to show how much walk-up business they would actually be able to generate?
I have not seen those figures. I know that this prototype, they have 2 of them this small, and they're rolling them out at different locations. I don't think one has been put in the city as of yet, but they do sort of look at context and feel that with the bus stop, with the business center, with the clinicas across the street, that they'll have an increased walk-up business.
I mean, just as an observation, Oxnard Boulevard creates kind of a massive barrier to pedestrian traffic.
I agree, but I think being at the corner, you know, the 4 corners can be activated with the clinicas there, and I believe there's a retail center, and then there's the McDonald's. So I think we have the ability to do that, and I totally agree with the rest of Oxnard Boulevard.
Okay, thank you for your comments. That's all, Chair Chavez. Thank you for this chance to ask questions.
Thank you, Commissioner Nash, for your questions. Any additional questions from the commission? I actually had a few, and it's kind of piggybacking off of Commissioner Nash's questions, and this may be more suitable for our staff. Mr. Duborowski, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought the patio was going to have a seating area for customers for the fast food and the Starbucks.
Chair Chavez, the project does include patio areas. Those are shown on the site plan. The applicant can provide more detail. There is a fencing element to demarcate those patio areas. The dining area may be located outside the fast food place, but there is none adjacent to the Starbucks location.
Okay. I'm just trying to view the image of the location, and I see both sides have patio. So only the fast food is going to have the dining and not Starbucks?
That's correct at this point. If you look at our second slide in of our presentation, if you want to bring that up, it sort of shows the patio as a gathering space. Obviously, that could change at some point if Starbucks so desired, to put some seating out there so that you could sit and wait while your coffee was being, you know, done at the walk-up window. We've opened that area up so that can happen. We've also widened the sidewalk around the front of it so that you could expand and put some umbrellas with seating out there if they so desired. But we didn't get a definitive from them at this point that was something they wanted, at least at opening, to do.
Okay. Now, in terms of the placement, staff, can you go to the aerial view of how the layout of the property is going to be? Yeah, that's that one. fine.
You're better looking at a plan because this is an illustration that isn't quite accurate. There you go.
Was it explored for the fast food place to mimic how the McDonald's layout is in terms of just creating a U shape? My concern is the two crosswalks that people have to cross to get from the Starbucks over to the fast food, and then from the fast food onto Ives. So the layout, the positioning of the building, what's the reasoning behind that versus being not parallel, but being in line with the Starbucks?
We did look at that, and one of the things that was brought up in early discussions with the traffic engineers and planning staff was that if we did in fact push the drive-through lane to be on the inside for the fast food, it really hampered. You had all your traffic to get into the dining room of the fast food going across a drive aisle, a queuing lane. And it was thought that it was much better to have a sort of a more direct access, a traditional access to the front without having to go through the queuing lanes. We did cross queuing lanes at 2 locations, as you point out. That's fairly typical for drive-throughs. And one of the things that Oxnard requires, as you know, is a enhanced paving that delineates that is a pedestrian crossing plus signage. And speeds are relatively slow, going into those queuing lanes. But we did look at that. That's why we did a similar thing where most of the building, even from the corner, is shielded by this large double-tiered monument sign for the center. And then when it opens up, we actually pulled the building out over the queuing lane and put in a big window. So it will have more the effect of that it's a building facade that you're looking at rather than the queuing lane itself, where the canopy over at the point of order or pickup.
Okay. Now the number of ADA spaces on this one, it kind of shows me there's only 2 for the Starbucks and then 2 for the fast food. Is that accurate, or is there more?
Those are numbers that we got from the California Building Code on what is required due to the number of spaces on site. So it's a building code thing.
What's the total number of ADA spaces?
We have 4.
Just the 4. Okay. For our staff on Ives, it was illustrated in the applicant's presentation, the entry into the property, but not necessarily the exit. Is there any improvements being done to Ives, such as a raised median, very similar to the last Starbucks project that we had? They kind of forced everyone to exit right. Is that something that's happening on this project?
Chair Chavez, this is Scott Kolbitz. The answer is no. Ives does not have the same type of traffic issues as the prior project that you had reviewed. So it's not intended to have a raised median.
Okay. Is it possible for the commission to request that something similar to what the Lowe's shopping center has that does force people to go right? And the only reason why I ask that is when you're coming down Statham Boulevard from Oxnard Boulevard, there is no stop sign. And so the traffic that crosses over Oxnard Boulevard into the business park, they just keep rolling. Sometimes they come around those corners pretty fast, and cars trying to turn in or exit, make a left turn, an accident could occur.
Chair Chavez and members of the commission, that's something, those type of considerations would be something that our Public Works Traffic Division would be looking at as we're doing the ongoing monitoring of projects. They did look at this project and they reviewed it, and didn't see a need for those type of improvements for this facility. So at this point in time, it's not the recommendation of the traffic engineers, because they did not see in the terms that they would use in the industry, the nexus to make that requirement.
Okay. All right, those are all my questions. Is there any additional questions from the commission? Seeing and hearing none, we'll go ahead and open the public hearing. To my knowledge, we do not have any public speakers signed up. So we will go ahead and follow AB 361 and have our time 3 minutes to see if any additional members of the public wish to participate. Again, this is item G3, Starbucks and fast food, a subdivision of a parcel located in South Oxnard on the corner of Ives and Statham. You may view the bottom of your screen for the calling number, meeting ID, as well as a passcode to participate.
And Chair Chavez, this is Scott Kolwitz. I just wanted to jump on here for a quick second to say that as we listen to the various questions that have come in from the commission, staff does not have anything else to add at this point in time. But if there are questions, certainly we're available to jump in and have that conversation. And thank you to the applicant team for being able to field so many of those questions.
Thank you, Mr. Kolwitz.
Commissioner Nash, what do we have for dinner? It's okay. I use my recusal
No,
time.
I'm laughing because the pretzels.
Oh, okay.
You know.
I take advantage of my recusal time to eat dinner, so no fault. Yeah, thanks.
But believe me, you're not missing anything.
Okay.
Pretzels without beer.
Okay.
Kind of dry. I thought about turning my video off, but
Yeah, we should have it. Yeah.
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 I had to go feed my 13-year-old real quick, so that's why I turned off my video. So,
We'd like to see that too.
yeah, make sure she's alive, right?
Oh, we are responsible for that, right? To make sure.
Yes, yes, yes.
Oh, kids. Okay.
So just
Thank
a
you
quick,
for broaching that. Oh, go right ahead, Chair.
I was just gonna say, you know, that we do have a special meeting next week, Thursday, the 24th. Special start time of 7 p.m. and then our regular meeting on Thursday, March 3rd, regular time at 6 p.m. So just throwing that out there. Did you have something to say, Commissioner Meyer?
No, just appreciating broaching the need to actually find time to eat. So I'm guilty of that. I tried to have my camera off to avoid the process of eating.
chewing on camera.
This is all I've ever known. I
This is the
can't
reality.
imagine being in the council chambers and not having my snacks present.
It's not easy, that's for sure.
Yeah, we'd have like a break time where we could maybe grab a snack and.
I don't believe it's a
Yeah.
catered snack time though, right?
It is
No.
not.
We don't.
Self-catered. We'll call it self-catered.
All right, Madam Secretary, do we have any additional speakers?
No, we don't.
Thank you. So we'll close the public hearing for this item. Commissioners, any deliberations or additional questions for this item? Commissioner Connolly.
I just want to say thank you for the applicant. I think we've obviously had some deliberation and opposition towards Starbucks locations in the past, and it wasn't as we expressed to Starbucks as a whole, as most of us do love indulging in Starbucks multiple times a day. But I think what they've done with this location really makes sense. And what it reminds me of is I lived in Thousand Oaks for a brief time. I bought my first house in Thousand Oaks in 2010. And on Rancho and Thousand Oaks Boulevard, there was a walk up and drive-through only Starbucks. And I had never seen anything like that. And what this location reminds me of is that location. And it was great. And I think it's going to do really well there. And I think it's going to alleviate some of the backup on the Starbucks on, what is it, Channel Islands and Rose, which may have been one of the first drive-through Starbucks here in Oxnard, because I know I frequented that one as well. So I think this is a really great proposition. And like I said, I congratulate the applicant. I think it's really well written, and I thank them.
Thank you, Commissioner Connolly. Commissioner Meyer.
Thank you, Chair Chavez. Yeah, I'm glad to see that there's something that looks sustainable, financially viable, and beneficial to the community being put into this place. I know it's had, there's been difficulty in finding that from when Marie Collanders left, and there's the buffet location that followed. And so to see something that looks like it'll benefit the community, it'll bring some of the amenities that are often in other parts of the city to this area. And it does seem to time well and fit well with Clinicas coming in, with the additional housing units coming in, as providing some additional amenities to the people of the area. So I can support this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Meyer. Commissioner Nash.
Thank you, Chair Chavez. One quick question for staff. The public art, the 3 or 4 poles or whatever, they're right there on the corner. I did not do a site visit, but that's what's on the corner right there of Statham and Oxnard Boulevard.
Yes, correct, Commissioner. The art exhibit consists of essentially a bunch of poles, and I'm not quite sure the title of that art exhibit, but that was constructed quite some time ago. I know the applicant has interacted with the Arts Council regarding that exhibit.
And since this is the point for deliberation, I will say that that is a big reason why the public sometimes hates public art. So be that as it may, to me, that makes this corner, it was, I'm sure, a gateway to the business park, but it's also a gateway to the city. And I really want to approve that, I really want to vote to approve this project. And I think we're so close, but I could not really live with myself if for the next 30 years I passed this site and looked at those 2 plain square buildings that offer nothing visually appealing. So I think we are so close, and everything else with the site design is great, and I'm 100% in favor of the way that they chose to redevelop this site. 100% in favor of that. So to me, we're so close. Just if you could just add a few design elements to the exterior of the buildings. I wouldn't even be a stickler for the outside seating for the Starbucks, because that is sort of a business decision. I don't think it's I don't think it's the right business decision to not provide seating for your customers, but that's ultimately that's a business decision. So I will not be supporting this project as it currently stands before the Planning Commission, and I feel like the need to apologize for that, because everything else about it is so right. But to have this on a gateway corner, it just needs something more. So thank you for allowing me to make those comments, Chair. That's all I have.
Thank you for your comments, Commissioner Nash. Vice Chair Rejo.
Thank you, Chair Chavez. To generalize the comments that the previous Commissioner Nash stated, because it might seem that there are some elements that other commissioners could be in favor of. I invite him to divide the question and vote to approve parts of the recommendation if anyone would like to do so, and make your point specifically in regards to specific resolutions that would be in order. And I would second that if a motion was made. In regards to all the permits and in general to the project, I believe that it has one of the least concerns in regards to drive-throughs and traffic. And so at this time, I would be in favor of all parts of the recommendation. Thank you, Chair Chavez.
Thank you, Vice Chair Rejo. Mr. Duborowski, real quick, there is no, I know for the last project for the Starbucks that we approved, there was, what was it? The Santa Clara Rose specific plan or design plan that they had to meet certain design standards. There's not one for the business park, is there?
Yes, Chair Chavez, as outlined in the staff report, this site is subject to the Channel Islands Business Center development standards. This project does comply with those standards.
Okay. So technically, I guess what I'm just trying to figure out is, I agree with Commissioner Nash in his comments of this is our corridor into our city. You know, cars that are coming off the one coming from Santa Monica, this is the corridor. And we're starting to see more development. I, like Commissioner Connolly, I seen for the first time a walk-up Starbucks, which I thought was very odd. But it didn't look like the one that's being proposed tonight. It actually looked nice. It looked inviting. It had seating, and again, that's a business decision. And it had a drive-through. So it had the outdoors seating. It was covered. It had the, in my mind, the authentic Starbucks look. Whereas this one, I feel, yeah, it does just look like a box. It's like what stands out for me on this one. So I guess, Mr. Duborowski, what I'm trying to ask is, does the commission have the ability to recommend altering the design of the actual building, or are we stepping outside of our realm?
This is Ken Roselle. I'd be happy to take a shot at that. I think it depends on what you are proposing. There are certain federal laws that, for example, you could not tell Starbucks they had to change the logo on their sign. That's not something that could be done. To the extent that you had a dialogue with the architect to talk about additional articulations or other elements that might be added to it to see if that is something they would agree to, that may be the best way to do that. If you have a positive result, then of course you could support it. If you don't, then it is within your rights to, like you did for another recent Starbucks, to not approve it. So I think there's some options there, short of just trying to redesign the project here tonight.
And if I could jump in there really quick, commissioners, what staff is hearing at a high level is if we take the 10,000 foot view, the site plan and those type of things make sense on the project. And what we're trying to get to is really making a pedestrian scale, if you will, or adding those elements to it. On the flip side, we heard from the applicant team that they, as part of their program, they were striving for a certain size building and not extending beyond that. There very well may be a middle ground of some sort here. And what I'm thinking of is in particular with the Starbucks location that Commissioner Conley brought up on Thousand Oaks Boulevard and Rancho in Thousand Oaks. Their building actually is fairly plain when it comes right down to it, but there are landscaping features. There's a pergola, I believe, on the outside of that building, and other elements which are fairly not intensive, but add that pedestrian scale. And it would be appropriate if the Planning Commission is thinking about still getting an approval tonight to engage in that conversation with the applicant if any of those type of elements would be able to be added to this project to satisfy the direction that the Planning Commission may be going. So it's not expanding the building, but adding, shade elements and landscape elements and other architectural features such as that.
Mr. Kolwitz, what did you call that's on the building?
Excuse me again. Not on the building itself, but a pergola. So like a trellis feature. And a trellis feature that typically, well, not typically, that could have landscape on it as well. Scott Boydston is a talented architect who's done a lot of projects locally. So rather than staff try to design something on the fly and in the air here, if the commission is interested in that conversation, staff's recommendation would be to turn it back over to the applicant team to give those type of ideas. If it's to the liking of the Planning Commission, we can add a condition of approval, essentially, that those type of elements could be added and still walk out of here with an approval tonight.
Okay. I was just, the first thing that popped into my mind was those cages that some Starbucks have actually on them, on the actual building, and they have the plant that grows up. And I've also seen other Starbuckses that have like a custom art that has lights shown on them on the side of the buildings as well. Scott, not my Scott in the chambers, but the applicant Scott. Is that something that Starbucks would be willing for? I understand during the presentation you made the comments, and I apologize, commissioners, I don't mean to will and deal on our virtual dais, but I do want to see the best outcome and that every commissioner is comfortable with it. But will the applicant be comfortable with potentially doing something with either a wall landscape or some type of art, or because I understand your comments in the beginning during your presentation said that this was the new way that Starbucks was trying to transition to, or a new prototype of what it was trying to get to. Your thoughts?
Well, in past projects, Starbucks has been flexible with those kinds of things. Using green screens, which are the screens that come off that you plant, possibly as Scott Kolwitz talks about, maybe getting more of a trellis, that awning coming out and covering more of the actual patio area, so that you feel like you're undercover and you're not just standing out on a piece of concrete. I think all those things can be looked at. I'll just say this: when I worked on the Ventura Auto Center project that was recently before you, I know staff came back after the hearing and said, some of these planes are a little flat. Can we work together as a team as you develop the construction drawings to enhance this a bit? And then we'll review it as we review projects during the construction and of the plan check. And that was something that we were willing, wholeheartedly to do to still get an approval, but continue to enhance it. Because at the end of the day, Starbucks image and what they do is they're very conscious of community, how they're seen in the community. So I think all those comments are good, and we could go down that direction. We just, in order to keep this project alive, we've got a due diligence of end of February, or the project, we no longer have any options to extend the project. So this is a critical sort of move forward for us.
Oh, absolutely. And I appreciate the willingness for the dialogue. Commissioner Connolly, I mentioned her location that she knows of. The one that I know of is in Encino, off of Ventura Boulevard, and I want to say it's between Lindley and Zelza. That is a walk-up one also. And I believe there's also one on Ventura Boulevard close to Corbin. That's a walk-up as well. So something that highlights what Starbucks is. Everyone sees the sign and automatically like Starbucks, but the building itself. Commissioner Nash, did you have any specific things that we can potentially get this project moving forward, or?
No, and I really don't have the vocabulary to express what it is, I'm looking for specifically. But I think that the other commissioners and Mr. Kolwitz have provided some direction to the applicant team to juice up the design a little bit. And I'm 100% in favor of utilizing vegetation and plantings and screenings, because that can hide a multitude of sins. And again, it will bring it down to a human level where we're just not looking at a box. We're looking at, something green, for instance. So through articulation and screenings and plantings, I think we can get what we're after. So I'm not sure how to put that in a motion, and I'm looking at staff to maybe provide some language to help us out here.
I don't think it absolutely needs a motion, but of course I'll turn to our staff. It sounds like our applicant team has worked with our staff before on design, in particular the last project, but Mr. Kolwitz.
Well, I think the applicant team wants some approval tonight, correct?
Correct.
Chair Chavez and members of the Planning Commission, I'll jump in here. Yes, we would look for a condition to be added to the project, because that really is what makes it a binding decision going forward. We can help craft that. We've got some language that we've already put together potentially. As the applicant has already stated that they've read their other conditions and accepted those, we'd also want to make sure that the applicant team is on board with this as well. So I'll just throw that out there for just a quick second. My question to the Planning Commission is, we've been focusing on the Starbucks building. Is the concern on both buildings or just the one? I want to make sure that we're getting your intention correct, so there's no vagaries here.
Commissioner Nash.
Thank you. Absolutely for both buildings, and I was going to raise that issue. So thank you.
Okay. Then the condition language itself that we would propose, and again, I'd be looking to Scott with his architectural eye, as well as to his compliments. Scott's been a planning commissioner and a member of other design review boards as well in past lives. So he'll be able to help here with these things from the applicant's teams. But a condition along the lines of during plan check, the applicant team shall enhance the exterior facades of the two proposed buildings with features such as, but not limited to, landscaping, trellis, pergolas, art, and so on, for the purpose of bringing a pedestrian scale to these buildings. And if that's capturing the general flavor of what the planning commission is, we could give some more nuance to that if need be, but that's what I'm hearing. What I'm hearing is the primary concerns were on the public right-of-way sides of the building. So Statham and Oxnard Boulevard. So I want to be clear that that's what we're talking about as well. Rather than the interior sides of the building seem to have that type of articulation already. But I wanted to throw that out to the planning commission to see if that's meeting the spirit of what you're looking at. And then I would ask to turn it over to Scott if we're going down the right path.
Okay, Commissioner Nash.
Thank you, Mr. Kolowitz. I think that if the building facade is hidden by a berm, we don't have to worry about that so much. But if it's visible from the roadway on Oxnard Boulevard or Statham Ives, and from the pedestrian side, then those are what we need to concern ourselves with. If that's clear, and I apologize for my lack of clarity sometimes.
Yeah, I believe that's clear from our perspective. I see other commissioner hands that are up right now. So Chair Chavez will look for you to help navigate this if we're going to the commissioners, or if we want to have a check-in with the applicant team on that general language and spirit.
Let me go to the commissioners real quick, just in case they have some other thoughts. Commissioner Meyer.
Thank you, Chair Chavez. Building onto this suggestion, especially around the art, I think putting in a stipulation or preference for. You're not able to hear me?
Can you turn off your mic and then turn it back on? Because you're getting some weird feedback.
Oh, like mute and unmute?
Yeah, let's see if that fixes it.
Better?
No, it's still doing the same thing.
I think I've got an echo of sorts in this room.
Okay, we'll go ahead with your comments, and then we can summarize afterwards.
Okay. Yeah. What I would add would simply be a preference for artwork by local artists. If we're going to go with the artwork route, I think that's a good idea. I mean, we're not exactly at the gateway to Oxnard. I think that'd be a couple blocks further south and east, but to enhance the area, and I think it'd be a good gesture for Starbucks, who has expanded its service and has several locations in our city. I think that would be an appropriate gesture. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for those comments. And again, just to summarize Commissioner Meyer's comments, it's if we go down the path of art on the building, that we look at local artists as an option and to be a good gesture. Did I sum that up right, Commissioner Meyer? Yes, thank you. Commissioner Connolly.
Just real quickly, because I don't want to beat a dead horse. I appreciate Commissioner Nash and Commissioner Meyer's attention to detail, but that area is kind of like an industrial area. It's not like the most visually appealing part of town. And with that said, I kind of rely on our friends at Starbucks, the national or international experts on kind of what they think the trends are going for. I think if a minimalist building was going to work anywhere, it would work in that area, if that makes sense, because there's not much going on there. When we look at the everything that's kind of been going on there. So, and what the applicant said is that they're very forward thinking and they're very adaptable to changes. So I feel like if that area came up and started changing, that they would then adapt to it. So my point is, like I said, I don't want to beat a dead horse and kind of work on the details. And I really want to leave it to the experts, our friends at Starbucks, to really adapt to those kind of things. And I really think that we should want to build that kind of dead area up to have something desirable to go to and bring people to, and then the arts and visual things will kind of follow. It's my only comment.
Thank you, Commissioner Connolly. I'll just add on to your comments that yes, in its current state, it's industrial, but we've already heard that there is a housing project that's being thought about. Clinicas is going into the area. There's a church as well as a preschool not that far away from this area. And there's still a lot of traffic that travels along this road. So I'm more into the whole thing of just get it done now and not have to worry about it later, but that's just my opinion. We'll go to our applicant team to get his thoughts based off of the commission's comments and the proposed new condition.
Well, I think what we're hearing is that the desire to enhance the architecture of the building by adding human scale elements that would articulate the massing of the box. And I think that's what I'm hearing, at least. And those items could be, but not limited to, trellises, green screens, additional landscaping, that kind of thing, maybe fencing, that creates a sense of place. And I don't think we're against that. I think one of the things about adding more art is we're 30 feet back from the street. And I think that what we don't show in any of the situation, there's like 7 or 8 poles and they're 30 feet tall, and that there's a design to it that essentially the design ratchets differently and it steps down as you go. So I think this project's really, instead of there being an ugly Marie Callender's behind it, is going to open up that space, and the public art actually is going to be more dramatic than it is even now. So I'm not sure we need to add another public art piece to this, but I think all the other things sound reasonable. Okay. Maybe we should enhance the paving on the patio, into a pattern, things like that.
Okay, so you would be willing to accept that proposed condition that Mr. Kolwitz?
Yes.
Okay, Commissioner Nash.
Thank you, Chair. I'm ready to make a motion if all of the commissioners have made their deliberative comments.
Is there any additional deliberation from the commission? Mr. Kolwitz, did you have anything to add before the commission takes a motion?
Chair, thank you for calling on me. We crafted a little bit more language here that I wanted to read into the record based on the conversation. So this is what we would propose as a new condition of approval. After I read this, I would look for the applicant team to state if they agree, and then we would have no further comments if they agree. So during plan check, the applicant team shall enhance the exterior facades of the buildings visible from Oxnard Boulevard, Statham, and Ives to include elements such as, but not limited to, excuse me again, landscaping, green screens, trellises, pergolas, art by local artists, etc. To bring a human scale to the building and create a sense of place to the satisfaction of the community development director.
Scott, on the applicant team?
Yeah, that's fine. Yep.
Okay. Commissioner Nash?
Point of parliamentary inquiry, Chair.
Vice Chair Rahel.
Thank you, Mr. Kolwitz, for crafting that language. Can you specify which of the permits it would go into, or would it go into all of the permits? It appears it would go into permit ending 04 and 06. Am I correct in that assumption?
You're correct. It would go into both of the special use permits. So 21-500-06 and 21
06 and 07.
07.
Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Kolwitz. Appreciate that when we're moving and amending. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Nash.
Thank you, Chair Chavez. So I move that the Planning Commission approve staff recommendation with the addition of the additional condition as crafted by Mr. Kolwitz. I think that covers everything.
Okay. Is there a second? Commissioner Meyer. Second by Commissioner Meyer. It's been moved and seconded that the Planning Commission find the project to be categorically exempt from environmental review pursuant to the California Environmental Quality Act Guidelines, Section 15332, infill development, and adopt a resolution 2022 XX approving planning and zoning permit number 21-300-04, parcel map subject to certain findings and conditions, and adopt a resolution 2022 XX approving planning and zoning permit numbers 21-500-06, 21-500-07, with the new condition of approval crafted by staff. Is there any additional comment, deliberations on that motion? Seeing and hearing none, Madam Secretary, if we can have a roll call, please.
Commissioner Nash,
I want to thank the applicant team for working with us on this. I think it's an important moment for the Planning Commission. So aye.
Commissioner Meyer, okay.
There's an aye from him.
Vice Chair Ovejo,
Aye.
Commissioner Connolly,
Aye, thank you.
Commissioner Dr. Lopez,
Aye.
Chair Chavez,
Aye, and thank you again to the applicant.
Thank you.
motion passes.
Thank you and congratulations. And again, thank you for working with our commission and our staff on trying to have a good image for our residents and our community.
Absolutely.
Can I say something?
Yes, please go ahead.
Commissioner Nash, thank you, sir, for your input. We will make sure that the building looks nice. Thank
Awesome.
you.
So with that, we'll go ahead and proceed to our next items. Study session reports, nothing's listed. Our next item is Planning Commission business. Commissioners, any comments? Vice Chair Rejo.
Thank you, Chair Chavez. I have two unrelated comments. My first is that given that I believe state, county, and city possibly have dropped their state of emergencies or whatever the technical term was in regards to the health-related restrictions, if and when will this Planning Commission meet in person in the council chambers if that has been decided? Question to staff.
Yes, I don't have an exact date, but I believe that it will reopen in March. We're waiting for the final word from city management, but that is my understanding based on some preliminary discussions, but I believe it should be next month.
Thank you, Mr. Rosell. My second point, and sorry to call on Mr. Rosell again, I am going to set the foundation and refer Planning Commission to one of the Planning Commission items that were appealed, in particular City Council Agenda Item M2, Vineyard Starbucks Site Renovations Appeal. Mr. Rosell, can you confirm, because I thought I heard 4 or 5 appellant grounds of appeals that were made. Were all the grounds of appeals, the 5 that were included in the agenda packet, included? And my clarifying question to that is that none of the grounds of appeals were retracted before the city council meeting?
And just so I can be clear, so you were talking about the Starbucks at Vineyard and River Park, correct? That
Correct.
project? Yes. None of the grounds of appeal were withdrawn prior to the meeting.
Okay, thank you. Because I really thought I heard 4 grounds of appeal a lot of times and there were 5. Thank you for confirming that, Ms. Roselle. So I would just like to say to the Planning Commission, like, of course, I'm thankful for all the deliberative actions that we took. And I believe that all of our comments at the 4 commission meetings, the 2 obviously that were the most substantive, that provided the most deliberative discussion and actions. I really appreciated that we were able to keep it respectful, and that it was based on, in my opinion, the purview that the Planning Commission is able to make actions and hear arguments for and against certain motions, actions on projects that come to us. You know, it's pro and con that the Planning Commission is not able to respond to the appellant's grounds of appeal. And I'm looking at appellant ground of appeal 3, quote, the denial by the Planning Commission was based on personal biases. Obviously, I truly appreciate that the staff stated, quote, the appellant does not provide any evidence in their appeal application to back up their assertion. And I like to informally say, yeah, for sure. And I am just very insistent in highlighting that in all my years of studying and engaging in the use of parliamentary procedure, one of the big things that we say so much that we take, that I have taken for granted, but definitely not with seeing that ground of appeal, is that when we make deliberative discussion and arguments, that it is based on the idea and not on the person. And honestly, in my opinion, to slightly go personal, but listening and seeing, well, I don't think anything was said in regards to grounds of appeal 3, but that I think is a personal affront to those who thought it could be personal bias. And I would just like to vehemently oppose that grounds of appeal. I just feel like it impugns our character. And so in a way, I'm glad I wasn't able to say something because it might have gone more emotional than productive. Of course, I know that there is an option for the Planning Commission to send a representative of the Planning Commission to the City Council for various means, and it could be an option in the future to better articulate some of the reasons, although I do believe that staff was able to summarize and effectively point out what the Planning Commission said. And so I greatly appreciate that. And it appears that there were many of us Planning Commission members listening to the appeals that were happening. I was in bed while that was happening. And so I appreciate Mr. Kolwitz in regards to actually being there. I'm sorry about making a semi-rant on that, but I try to be as productive as I can. And I stand by my comments. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Commissioner Nash.
Thank you, Chair Chavez. And thank you for speaking at the Tuesday night meeting. That was quite a marathon meeting. And if you didn't get a chance to watch it, try to watch it in segments, especially the 2 appeals, very enlightening. I absolutely defend the right of any planning commissioner, especially our chairperson, to speak before the City Council. So thank you very much for that. And, you know, this Planning Commission, we do not deal in racism. We do not deal in classism. We stand for integrity, impartiality, and fairness. And we always vote to what we perceive to be in the best interest of our community. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And for people to suggest otherwise, it's really quite insulting. And my wife says not to take it personally, but it's hard. It's very hard sometimes when your personal integrity is questioned. So I just want to say thank you to the Planning Commission, and thank you to staff and Mr. Rizal for defending your right to speak, Chair Chavez. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Nash. Commissioner Dr. Lopez.
I also had a question, then followed by some comments. My question was also in regards to the appeals that were brought to City Council this week, items M1 and M2. And I just want to better understand, after an application or an item leaves us and goes to the City Council, what is the process upon which staff then makes their recommendations? And the reason I ask that is because both M1 and M2 had been denied, which is, or in one case, no action was taken, but it wasn't approved, and forwarded to the council. But then the recommendations were split in that one was to uphold and one was to deny. And so I just wanted to understand that process after it leaves us and staff takes and makes their recommendation.
Commissioner Lopez and members of the commission, I'll start with this one, and maybe Ken will have some follow-up comments as well. So very broadly speaking, when a decision of the Planning Commission is made by a majority of the planning commissioners, staff would typically stand behind that decision and represent that before the Planning Commission if an appeal came through. So in the situation that presented itself with these two appeals, for the harbor project, there was no decision by the Planning Commission with a majority vote one way or another. It was a deadlock vote. And because there was a deadlock, we defaulted to the staff recommendation that was originally presented. On the flip side, with the Starbucks project that we took before the City Council, there was an appeal of the denial that the Planning Commission had. And staff, we wrote the report from the position of the Planning Commission. So to deny the appeal and uphold the original denial of the Planning Commission. Sorry about the use of the word denial there so many times, that sometimes gets confusing, but we took the position of the Planning Commission. That's the norm, I would say, the best practice in the realm that we get into. The only time that there might be a different approach, again, as I look at best practices, is if there was a decision made that really was not based in demonstrable fact, if you will, and something would have to be really out there for a best practice sort of decision here, that something just wasn't factually true, and that was the basis of the appeal. Staff might take on a different position. And potentially if something was going against like a policy decision that had previously been set by the City Council would be another potential reason that there might be something else. Those are extremely rare, is what I would generally say as well. So for kind of tying back the loop here, we really felt that I think that answers the question. So yeah. I'll stop talking.
I appreciate it. Thank you. It certainly provides that clarification. Okay. I think, I'm one who stayed up until 1 a.m. on Tuesday, and then who also tuned in to watch the special meeting yesterday on the redistricting maps. And so one of the things that was pointed out was that both our chair, Chavez, and Vice Chair Arejo had taken the time to submit maps for consideration. I believe it was Councilmember Turan who acknowledged that. Other council members might have been Mayor Pro Tem McDonald, who acknowledged how difficult the problem or the program is to wrap your head around it and then play with it and nonetheless get to a map that meets the federal criteria necessary for whichever maps are selected. And so I just wanted to thank both of you as our chair and vice chair for taking the time on top of all the work, both professionally as well as what you all do for preparation for our commission meetings. It's very much appreciated to see yet an even higher level of engagement from both of you. And so it's very much noted and appreciated. And so I wanted to recognize it here as well. To Mr. Roselle, also, I think Commissioner Nash might have recognized this, but Tuesday's meeting, and I have more to say about that, but I did appreciate you coming to, I don't want to say defense, but perhaps clarifying for the applicant's attorney on Commissioner Chavez's right to speak. I think he certainly made clear that he was not speaking on behalf of the Planning Commission. He was there representing himself. And I know that I too had reached out and communicated to our elected officials in my own personal capacity, referencing the memo that Mr. Roselle, you had provided to us weeks earlier. So thank you for that as well. Now, just general thoughts, I have to say, and you might see my more somber face today. It might be in part because I'm tired of the long week, but I'm also disappointed, disheartened, and frustrated by many of the comments that were made about me, other commissioners, us as a planning commission, and even the quote unquote the city. Right? This maskless entity of the city. I believe that when accusations are levied, when fully uninformed statements are made, they warrant a response, a clarification, and cleared for the record. History and the record will record it. There were many statements made about one of the previous cannabis SUP applicants and what drove Mr. Chavez, Mr. Nash, and my decision to not support. And let me begin by saying the Planning Commission is composed of hardworking, honest, and fair appointed public servants who care deeply about Oxnard and all its people under the rainbow. I think it was also Councilmember Turan who acknowledged that our commission and said that us don't even get a cup of coffee for our work. Someone asked who appoints us. Ultimately, we are appointed by the city council by recommendation of individual members of the city council, but we are appointed by the entire council. What was disheartening to me was the conversations at this week's city council meeting and the fact that the conversation quickly ran into a ditch. And in my opinion, it remained there by both sides, those supporting the appeal and residents who opposed it. It was worse online. Someone questioned our integrity, as Commissioner Nash referenced, saying, and let me paraphrase this, that for some minorities, in this case, referencing Chair Chavez and myself, success is seen as being accepted by white people and the wealthy. That was so disappointing to see and disheartening to hear. It is unbecoming and disrespectful, and I will repeat to emphasize so that we can see how wrong and bad it was and sounds, that for some minorities, being accepted by white people and the wealthy is seen as quote unquote success. It would have taken one person at council to recognize where the conversation went and remained. And I would have appreciated someone calling for a moment of pause, a quick break, or a timeout to remind everyone to be civil with one another and elevate the conversation, much like we do here at the Planning Commission. But I also see how uncivil our politics and governments have become at every level, local, state, national, and global. We may not always agree. Some of our more contentious and split votes demonstrate that, but I have never questioned anyone's integrity here. And I believe that if the public watched our meetings, they would see the way we comport ourselves, our commitment, our time with some of the most recent meetings going until midnight or 1 a.m., how thorough we are, how invested we are, how passionate we are, and how at the end of the day, we respect one another, whether we agree with one another or not, and we move on. That is democracy. It does not fall on me that people are tired, people are frustrated, but for the record, as far as the only applicant I have struggled to support, let me tell you why in unequivocal terms. This is not your traditional commercial shopping center. It is a smaller neighborhood services center that already has 3 alcohol serving and selling businesses in it, and I could not support. I could not and would not in good faith support the application as it was presented, not in River Park, not in Colonia, not in Rose Park, not in South Oxnard, and not in Oxnard Shores. And I get that shopping centers like this already exist in our city, especially in under-resourced and underrepresented communities and neighborhoods. I get it. I see it. I've grown up in it. I've lived in it. I pass by it on a daily and weekly basis. Previous planning commissions may not have been sensitive to this. They may not have cared. I don't know. I, like other commissioners, take our job and role seriously. We consider ourselves stewards of the public's trust and of public land and land use. And again, for me, it was not that there was already, for me, I should say, it was that there was already 3 alcohol serving, selling businesses in this small shopping center. Although some of the callers use racial tropes and what some call dog whistles and NIMBY not in my backyard statements, I cannot defend that. I do not like or condone it either. Some were horrible, but I was not influenced or pressured by them or anyone. I did my due diligence and voted my gut and conscience. Again, I could not have supported the project as proposed in any neighborhood, not in 2022. All that being said, I'm disappointed, deeply disheartened, and frustrated. But the city council approved the applicant's appeal, and I will be the bigger person here and reach out to them like I have for all the other applicants that have been approved. I will reach out to congratulate and wish them the absolute best, as I did with our applicant today. For the record, also for those who will not go back to watch the actual hearing, I was very complimentary to them, thanking them for their interest to come and grow to Oxnard, their concept, their vibe, including the real celebrity on Tuesday, who was Dr. Beth, and for being the only applicant in West Oxnard. And I applauded their continued outreach after their hearing with us and their appeal to the city council. I hope that they take the good neighbor / community relations condition to heart and make the commitment to earn the support of some of their most immediate resident neighbors. Thank you all for your time and this opportunity.
Thank you, Commissioner Dr. Lopez, for your comments. Commissioner Meyer.
Thank you, Chair. I apologize. I had technical difficulties, got kicked out of Zoom, so I don't know what happened to the vote. I assume that it passed. My vote was to support, but I don't know if that came across. Could you fill me in on how that ended?
Yes, it was a unanimous vote. We did notify our secretary that you threw a thumbs up, so your vote should be recorded as a yes.
Thank you.
That is accurate.
Appreciate that. I think regarding, it is interesting, the Tuesday meeting was quite explosive and very long. And I think I'd go more to the second item. I think the second item, the reversal of our rejection of the Starbucks on off Vineyard, it almost felt like, hey, it's 1 o'clock. We just need to move on. I appreciated Mr. Kolwitz doing his best to represent our views and concerns. I was a little disheartened that basically the very specificity that we put into clarifying why we were concerned with this location and what would happen seemed to get lost, unfortunately, in terms of what the council members understood. And it just became something needs to go there. Anything's going to cause traffic. I guess we're just going to do it. Let's just let it happen, and we'll pick up the pieces afterwards. And so I was disheartened, and I think I'm going to end up being a citizen that's going to be constantly following up with Caltrans until they finally make some changes to the intersection, so that the inevitable issues that we predict will arise, that will arise, can be addressed, but it sounds like it'll be an after the fact kind of situation. But that's all my comments for now.
Thank you, Commissioner Meyer. I just want to say thank you to Mr. Kolwitz and Mr. Roselle. Mr. Kolwitz, you had the appeals on Tuesday that went extremely long. And then you have our meeting this evening. Mr. Roselle, 3 days of meetings, Tuesday, then the Wednesday were the redistricting, and then this evening. But I also, oftentimes I always thank staff, but I forget about a few others, and that's our IT team. They stay with us just as long as our staff that we see on camera. So I appreciate all of their work because during this pandemic of being on Zoom, it is only the city council, the committees, and our commission that is actually broadcast and be able to be viewed by the public live. So I appreciate our IT team sticking with us. And we have had a few long meetings, so I appreciate all of their work and ensuring that our public is being able to view these meetings. In terms of Tuesday, it was well said by Commissioner Nash and Commissioner Dr. Lopez. I just hope, I remain optimistic that our city will do better. And I briefly touched on it during our first item, that race is not a deciding factor. There are findings that each project that comes before us that we are supposed to be able to make and meet. And if we can't, we vote accordingly. Apparently, my comments on Tuesday upsetted a lot of people. I've received messages, I received calls of people very disappointed with me. Some even, disgusted by my comments. But I don't believe any of my comments were negative in any way. It was explaining what our role is as commissioners. And I went as a resident, not as the chair of this commission. So Mr. Roselle, thank you for clarifying that point to the applicant's attorney, that I was going in my private citizen capacity and not in my official, just like how I had introduced myself. We should be doing better in a city that is so diverse. Our city is extremely diverse. And again, our commissioners, no one is paid to be here. No one. We receive staff reports that are oftentimes so thick, and that's just often maybe be 1 or 2 items. We do a lot of work and we all have day jobs. But yet we continue to do our best for the residents of the city of Oxnard, because this is the city that we love, and this is the city that we want to see succeed. And succeeding means being responsible and being tentatively listening to our fellow residents. We say we want public input, but the moment that we get it and a few don't agree with it, oh, we're bad. So I don't regret any of my decisions. I am able to look myself in the mirror every morning because I know that I am doing what I believe is best for my fellow residents, for my children, and for every other child that's going to be an Oxnardian moving forward. So those are my comments, and I appreciate each and every one of you. That Tuesday night, I did not plan on speaking, but when the attacks were coming towards the commission, I took it personal and felt the need to stand up and speak for my fellow commissioners, because I know each and every one of you are investing your time to do what is best for our community. So I appreciate each and every one of you sincerely. With that, we'll turn to Mr. Kolwitz for our community development staff updates. Mr. Kolwitz.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Commissioners. Heartfeltly, thank you. this is exactly why I love this planning commission that we have. You're all so respectful to each other and you're so passionate about it. The city of Oxnard, I think the citizens are very lucky to have all of you. So thank you. And we're trying to do our best to represent you as other projects go beyond this body to others. So hopefully we're doing you proud as well as we're moving forward. So with that, I was initially going to talk about city council on Tuesday. I don't think I need to talk about that anymore. I think we've covered those items. So I'm going to go ahead and do a little bit of the forecasting here. So our next meeting is 1 week from today, starting at 7 o'clock rather than 6 p.m. So hopefully that helps with dinner for a few of you. The agenda is now shorter because the Oxnard item that we had sent is not going to be heard that evening. So that also helps make that packet a little bit thinner as you're looking at it. In addition, the meeting after that on March 3rd, that meeting is not going to happen. So that's an even shorter one. Enjoy the night off. And it means your next meeting after that is going to be March 17th. So thank you very much for all your hard work. Really over the last couple of months, it's been an amazing amount of work that all of you have been putting into it. And we recognize what it is that we've asked you all to do and absorb. And you've all taken your job very seriously, and we sincerely appreciate that. As we look into the future, I just wanted to share with you that March 15th is a council meeting date that I want you all to know about, partly because the Starbucks item that the reversal of the appeal means that we have to go back to city council with an approval recommendation. So we're going to be bringing that back on March 15th to the council. In addition, March 15th, we're also anticipating to bring back the River Park specific plan amendment and the Ford development agreement and River Park development agreement on that particular calendar as well. So I just wanted to share that with you as we're looking forward into our calendars. And with that, that's going to wrap up my comments to you tonight, but sincerely, just thank you. Wishing you all a great holiday weekend. So take care.
Thank you, Mr. Kolwitz. Mr. Roselle, we don't really have a slot for you, but did you have any comments that you want to share?
Just very briefly, thank you for the comments that were made. I did feel very passionately about the right of the planning commissioners in their personal capacity to speak before the city council and not be personally attacked. So that's very important. So I also, like Mr. Colwood stated, appreciate all the hard work. This has been quite a 2-month run with the commission with all these hearings. So you guys are doing great work, and I appreciate all the effort and the time, and it's good to be part of the team. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roselle. Okay, so since there is no further business before the commission, and if there's no objection to adjournment, we will be adjourning to our special meeting 1 week from today, Thursday, February 24th, with a special start time of 7 p.m. And our regular meeting will follow on Thursday, March 17th at 6 p.m. Vice Chair Rejo. Nope. Okay. Once again, thank you everyone for your hard work. Thank you to the public for the participation. And thank you, staff. Remember, stay safe and have a great night, everyone.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Y'all take
Have a
care.
good weekend, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.